it is time for our second session. We're ready. I think. I don't know. I hear XP talk happening. What's going on, friends?
I was just explaining
figuring
how.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go, Butt Prince.
I was explaining how much XP you needed to get to advanced tier, and the correct amount is about a shit ton, I think.
A shit
Yeah,
ton.
we're thinking way far ahead to when we like get our next professions.
Oh.
Well, yeah, it's 200 times 20 or something like that for the next tier, and then the tier after that is another 300 times however many. So it's a lot of XP, and I was explaining how much XP you get per session, which is 50 baseline, and then like another 50
And then as
for
much as
various other things that happen during the session. And I will call out what those are. In fact, you all got 100 XP last time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Which I didn't explain why you did, but you did, and I will explain why. But should we do introductions or whatever? It's like we're live. So. Hello.
Yeah, I mean, we can. Yeah. Why don't you start, Bud Prince?
I'm Butt Prince. I'm the GM. They them pronouns, and that's it. Yep. Hello.
Nailed it. Ink.
I'm Incorvid or Ink. They them pronouns.
Nice. Jeevesy.
Hello, I'm Jeevesy. I play Etienne. I have an axe, or Etienne has an axe. I use they or he pronouns, and I sadly am axeless.
I'm distracted elf. I use she her pronouns, and I'm playing Alora. That information are pronouns and so forth, my dear friends. I don't know if you have seen the way the stream's laid out, but you can see them on the screen. So
Okay.
people should not necessarily forget, because I have the little Discord box.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually if that's changeable in Roll20. That if you could change your display names to your character names, if possible.
You can, yes.
Yeah, you can.
Do I have to do that or?
No, we can do it with the nickname system.
Display name.
Yeah, just because it's less confusing for me if I to refer to characters as characters and not players or whatever.
Sure, yeah, we can definitely do that. Let's see here.
But yeah, that's the little bit of bookkeeping. Yeah, I didn't actually. I was meant to ask before the session started, but how comfortable is everybody with live singing?
Live singing? Yes. Are we about to be regaled, Bud Prince?
Well, there's an optional musical interlude before we begin.
Oh my god!
Because I wrote a theme song because I had prep time that I didn't spend on prepping. I spent it on writing a theme song.
I mean,
so
if you've written a theme song, Bud Prince, I want to hear this theme song.
Yeah, but I don't want people, if anyone's uncomfortable of the players, because it can be extremely uncomfortable to be sang at. Like, you know, I recognize that. I don't just want to spring it on people.
If you asked me to sing, I would implode into a supernova. Yeah, I'm fine listening to singing.
Yeah, we're good. Everybody's good.
Okay, that's fine. That's just because I meant to ask that before we started, but I got sidetracked by talking about XP and whatnot. So that's the first question. I guess should we begin or
yeah. No, go ahead.
Okay, so if you're normally I would start the session with I would ask someone to recap what happened last time, right? But nothing really happened last time. We didn't get very far into like actual like stuff. Just a little introduction to like the buildings and the NPCs of the home section of the like city, which is you know your home base. You all remember, I hope, from last week.
Indeed,
sort of.
Yes.
And what the last thing that happened was you all got kind of ushered into the inn, and the lights dimmed, and a lantern on the stage lit up with like a blue flame. A bluish flame that I think I mentioned it was sort of familiar to Etienne for some reason.
You did.
Yes, and there was I mean, if you remember your backstory, I'm not going to make you remember your back. I'm not gonna, but yes, so
yeah, the same color of flame that was in the eyes of the pit, wasn't it?
Yes. So
yes.
You know that's just something to note. And then the lantern floated up on its own accord, as if by magic. And then a suitcase opened, and a suit and pants and shoes and gloves floated out underneath the lantern and made like a body, like a weird. I want you to imagine this like if you ever seen a stop motion kind of animation. That's sort of how I picture this. Like it's like
Mm.
like a what's the name of the skeleton? You know, the pup, the not the stop motion famous skeleton
Oh yes,
movie.
I know the exact one you're thinking about. I was actually just like, no, is it? I don't know if it's the same one. I was thinking of the Minnie the Moocher one, but that's got a lot of
There's definitely
skeleton imagery in it.
no, and not yeah, like stop motion animation, as in like claymation, like
Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
live action.
yeah,
Not live
yeah.
action. It's
What's
drawn,
like
isn't it?
yeah, it's like so that kind of jerky, like weird movement. That's how this suit and lantern-headed thing is moving. And this is the musical interlude because the thing that appears before you begins to sing. And if you'll excuse me, I need a drink of water
Yeah.
before I
I'm
perform the most.
looking forward to this.
I'm trying to do the most awkward possible thing so like my nerves, like once I've sung a song like live on Twitch or whatever, like nothing else is gonna be as awkward or like cringy for me. Like
That's
so
true.
that's why, yeah, that's why it's like a trial by fire.
Uh.
So this lantern appears. let me get. I should get the lyrics.
I can tell you're nervous, smart friends.
You know, it's building the
It's
anticipation.
building up.
So
Yeah,
that nothing can possibly can live up to the excitement. You
I understand.
know? So the lantern man appears, and he goes, "When the ravens have gone to roost, and the rats have scurried away, then you'll find me all alone. My friends and family adjourn, and all your broken hearts will mend when the city is the end. And over the rooftops and through the streets, I'll carry this lonesome tune. And all our broken hearts will mend when the city is the end. Rum titty titty bum bum rah. There's absolutely no applause whatsoever.
That was amazing.
Yeah, right?
Damn, Bud Prince.
So that's my
Tom Waits vibe
yes,
going
that's
on.
my Tom Waits impersonation. That's the one person I can impersonate. It's Tom Waits singing.
That's
And
fantastic.
the double bonus of this for me as far as streaming goes is that it sort of hurts my vocal cords, so I won't be talking as much and like interrupting. This way, I'll be like, I should rest my voice, and I can let people like,
So
you know.
this this happens. There's no applause. Like nobody even
this is
looks
like,
up.
No, like they sort of you get the feeling like they were waiting for this to happen. Like, okay, he's done his song now. We can carry on. The point. Okay, so what I messed up last time is that I role played too much. Right, I was going through every NPC as if they were doing their thing, and like so this part I think will sort of that's the introduction. I want you to imagine that's the theme song that's playing for the opening credits for the first episode of The City Is the End, the TV show kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
this is where it would, if it was an anime, this would be the end of an episode and would start the end song or whatever. Anyway, so there's a meeting going on. You're all basically you were pulled into this to the inn to meet this character who introduces himself as the Great T. Swaymo. He takes a bow and again stop motion, sort of weird,
Slightly jerky.
yeah, obviously it's sort of puppety, weird ghost movement. And yeah, I don't think any of you need to roll stress or fear because of the ridiculousness of the appearance, right? There's normally a ghost might be kind of scary or spooky. Like
This is
in this
clearly a
case-
performing ghost, you know.
yeah,
So
it's like not
okay.
it's not like a scary ghost. Like you're like, oh, okay, there's a weird puppet ghost, and he floats over to the table and like sits down on nothing, like pretends to sit, like it's like a fake chair, like a mime chair, and joins the meeting. Now the gist of the meeting is basically like needs and wants of uh, the community, and it's sort of implied that like you all are going to be adventuring out uh, for like useful supplies and stuff. I think that's sort of the base like expectation.
Sure,
And that's-
we're being given an ask, given that we have
Yeah.
like only recently arrived. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Earn your keep.
yeah, and it's not so much implied that like you have to do this, like if you want to not do it, but the implication out of character. And I explained this to Elf, and I think Ink was there, but I'm not sure Jigsy was there yet. But the implication with West March's settings is that the characters all want to adventure. You all have goals
sure.
that are
I don't think we're
outside-
going to run into the situation of, well, my character actually wants to set up a tea house.
Yeah.
so-
No.
Yeah.
We've all got
Well-
very clear objectives.
The point is, if you wanted to set up a tea house, the way you would do that would be by going out into the city and adventure.
Yeah.
Right? That's
And like that is great. And
Yeah.
I realized after using that example, that's exactly what like Elf and Siobhan's characters in the LARP are doing. So I didn't want that to come across as like a bad thing to do. Just
No,
not
no,
this
no.
game.
It's different
no,
as
it's
well.
Just like, it's just setting wise. Yeah.
Honestly, a LARP is very different because the
Yes.
adventures come to you. You can't really go to the adventures. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So yeah.
Okay,
that's-
so there's a meeting. Is there anything like specific from specific people that they like want or need? Like if we're sitting there, Elora's probably got
So-
a notebook out and is like noting things down.
So the general gist is basically like there's a few sort of notes that people have. There's stuff like I guess raw material is one of them, right? So there's like if you can find a glyph out there that you can use to make like linen, to make grain, if you find a grain glyph, stuff like basically general goods is something that the storehouse wants and like asks for, right? So there's needs of commodities. That's one thing.
Etienne like raises a hand to whichever NPC was like talking about that.
Let me see who will be talking about that. But continue.
Well, Etienne kind of like looks at them and says, I'm not as familiar as some might be with how magic works. Haven't really dealt with much of it, at least not the glyph kind.
Oh, the glyphs.
But-
I'm very familiar with the glyphs.
Well, maybe you can help me then, Elora. So when they say they want us to bring the glyphs back here, do we have to like cut off the section of wall or whatever where they are, or do we have to just learn how to draw the glyph?
so
Like, can we draw the glyph anywhere and it just starts working?
from what I understand, she like takes out a reference and like flips through it a little bit, and she reads from the book. She reads, like as long as the glyph itself remains intact, however we get it here would probably work. So if we take the brick, that it was on, or the piece of wall or what have you, as long as we don't damage the actual image, I think we'll be okay.
Wait.
So Levist probably, and this was something that I was going to bring up as well, is that the subject of gift, but you brought it up for me. So the Levist probably goes, oh yes, so we've not quite determined a method of safely deglyphing a glyph and then transposing it somewhere safely. It seems to not always function if it is disturbed from the place it is originally placed, but theoretically, as you said, moving it intact is the first step. However, that is something that would require perhaps some form of artifact or tool specifically to do, and that is something that we would be very interested to acquire, so that we could acquire more glyphs. any glyph you find, you should note as to where it is found, so that you may return later should such a thing be acquired. As
Yep.
destroying walls is not an easy task, and there must be a way that glyphs were once transported, but we have not quite cracked that secret.
All right. So
And
we need to find a way to move them if we're gonna move them first. Okay.
correct. And to answer your question, Jeevesy, the person who was asking the storehouse is a frog lady from the storehouse. It's called
Right.
Sana Sarah, and she was very matter of factly like going through a list of like, I need grain, I need shoes, I need all this stuff, like anything you can find out there that would theoretically be useful to a community of people.
Yeah, because even if we can't bring the glyph back, we can use the glyph to get the
Create
stuff and then
things,
bring the
yeah.
stuff back. Yeah.
Yep. So that's the first general thing is goods. Second one, I mean, we'll call it the second one, but glyphs. If you can successfully bring back glyphs, those are things that obviously benefit you.
I mean,
and
it is
community.
an infinite supply, quote unquote, of a good at that point, which is very nice.
I mean, it might,
Equivalently exchanged good.
Yeah, when I say
that's a good word.
infinite supply, I don't know if that's true, but that's what Alora assumes.
I think that last session, oh no, I've forgotten the goat person's name.
Levist.
Levist, thank you.
Oh,
I need to remember that it's like part of Levistus. That I'll be able to remember it. Levist, I think, said that that you can like there are some glyphs that have like a per day allowance type thing, and others that can just produce so long as you have enough.
Some need
currency.
to be paid for.
Yeah, I did say that, didn't I? Yeah, I did that. Yeah. I it's hard to remember what I said.
I know it totally. Yeah.
Because I was like playing a nervous character while I was also nervous in real life.
I think
while
once
I was trying to ramble.
Once the meeting comes to a sort of like a head, and everybody said their piece or what have you about like what needs,
I can just give you the list of like stuff.
What needs must. I mean, I've noted down like all kinds of supplies, trade goods, like glyphs. Make sure to note their location, like these kinds of things. So Alora's noting it all down. And she turns to the table at large and says like, so who's going out? It's me and Ertica and Etienne. Yeah? Anyone else or?
Yes. So for now, we can't really spare any of the other members of the community, and the doctor's like, well, I'm a doctor, not an adventurer, and like the others basically make it known that like they're sort of this is like the skeleton crew for the community, and like anyone else who comes in, usually they either leave or they start helping by going out. So that's the general idea.
Well, it would be nice to get the lay of the land, I suppose, nearby. One thing description-wise I came up with for Alora while I was this week was that her eyes are just black, like buggy.
Like no iris, no.
Do they have fractals in them like the bugs? Like are they segmented like?
I think maybe they do, but they're. I think
compound.
maybe they do, but it's like subtle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So like
You'd have
no
to be, like,
no
close
pupil or anything, just black with like little segment
that's
parts.
Absolutely on point for like elves. My envisioning of elves like in general for the setting. So, like,
cool. Well then I'm glad I'm on point.
So yeah, I think what you're getting at is the tower. Like the tower is that gets brought up. Like Levist will bring it up, saying like, "Oh, we should open the tower so you can look out at the city," right?
That would be helpful to see nearby where might be good to head to, or if you have any information about the nearby sections. Though I know that can be a little unreliable.
Yes, so the sections around the city are constantly in flux, and therefore we cannot, without visual or other confirmation, tell you what is out there. There is but one entrance at any one time to this area, and that is through one of the doors that face out into the city.
Yeah,
And,
I remember you telling us. Yeah.
so far, only one of those is able to be opened at once, though there are multiple of them. And that is your primary egress into the city. Uh, Now, as for the tower, I believe Etienne wanted to open the door through violent methods. I suggested
Well,
that someone might
to
have.
be clear, when I said that, I didn't realize that someone in the actual settlement had the key. You kind of implied that we were going to have to like go out searching for a key, not that we just had to ask Doris down the road for it.
Yes, I'm afraid Doris moved out. But
Oh, my apologies.
the key. Yes, that's what I wanted to ask. If anyone knows where the key is,
Everybody at the table is like,
so like you, I think maybe a scrutinizer roll is if anyone is scrutinized. Yes, scrutinize roll.
Do I have?
If anyone wants to
Don't
look,
have it
look up,
trained.
I do. I have it trained. I have a
Hey.
scrutinize.
and it's not a. I don't know if I should make all of you roll. If anyone's not doesn't want to look, I think Etienne, you should roll because you're sort of asking.
Yes.
Or you're so like you
You
would
know what?
maybe be
I'm
looking at people.
not gonna roll because Alora's too busy reviewing her notes.
Oh no! Don't put it on me. I'm
So
terrible.
let's just give Etienne a scrutinized roll just to
Yeah.
see the sort of general.
Nope.
So yeah, no modifier I should
Doesn't-
say before I didn't set a difficulty rating, but there's no difficulty rating that would save you.
No.
Even a plus 30, you failed. So you don't really get a sense of who might, if anyone's hiding why they would hide the key. But at that point, like Devarto, the gravekeeper, who I described as a elf, like bee kind of elf, right? With like a
Mhm.
big fuzzy beard that looks kind of like a bumblebee-ish, and he's very like weird. He was staring at you funny, and he says, "I need bodies."
Etienne just kind of like looks at the gravekeeper.
I imagine the silence is completely in character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For what purpose?
For the graveyard.
Same question. For what purpose?
What?
Well, I need bodies for the graveyard, so I have something to keep.
Right. Of course. Well, we'll
Etienne is doing that rubbing his temple thing again. He's like, so this person just wants us to bring back bodies just so they can have a job to do, rather than looking for a different job to do.
Well, the graveyard may serve some important purpose, you know, like.
And Levis just sort of like, everyone's sort of equally like, okay, and like, oh yeah, yes, perhaps, well, that's not something you need to prioritize necessarily for the time being, but yes, but perhaps if we can't find a key to the tower, Etienne, you might have permission, I believe, from the gathered council to break the door down if you need to scrutinize the surroundings.
Etienne kind of like immediately stands up. It's less that he's like desperate to smash something and more that he doesn't want to be here for this meeting anymore.
With the meeting must. Yeah.
Like after the gravekeeper said that thing, Etienne's like, I'm going to hurt someone if I stay here.
It's
Yeah,
axe
and-
time.
So as far as other like requests, and this is an out of character, like generally,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
stuff people want. The coach house person, Yaz, asks for like horses and like any kind of transportation stuff. Obviously helpful for getting around the city quicker. So if you spot like a wagon or whatever, that's the kind of thing that Yaz wants, or that you would want. This is sort of the
Yeah.
NPCs are asking for it, but really it's upgrades for your home base. Like that's the cute thing here. Then there's I guess actually that's the doctor, of course, medical supplies, any kind of medicine, and like stuff to make medicine as well. So the stuff that which Etienne, I guess you would have an idea of what that is, which is stuff like opium is the seed pod of opium is the laudanum equivalent, and like there's a bunch of different items. I'll tell you if you find them or like, if you go and look for them, what those are. But there's each one you can craft into medicine. So she asked you for medicine. Then there's the gardener who asks for similar to that stuff to grow into medicine or other substances, which drugs basically, or food kind of stuff, right? So that's the like garden upgrade is raw seeds, I guess, stuff like that, or medicine stuff for medicine for the doctor. Those are the main things that you could get. And the Vist probably last like before you adjourn for the meeting is asks, well, just says again, like he collects curios, so like artifacts and weird stuff that you find in the city. He's the guy you go to trade for those, or
Noted.
trade those in.
Yeah.
So that's the, and yeah, that's basically it. There's no one who works in the smith yet, so someone suggests maybe
a
find
smith.
someone. Yeah, a smith might be an idea to find. And that's it. Besides the weird asking for bodies thing, which as you stand up, like I think maybe he follows you.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Etienne, do you like? Yeah. So Etienne, you're going out like right away, like on your
Going
own.
Yeah,
And
I start to leave, and as the graveyard keeper like starts to follow me, I like noticeably quicken my pace.
So he follows exactly, like catches up to you basically, or like he's a few paces behind you, and I think you get outside, and like the rest of the meeting, that stuff I described is like that's the other two. Maybe you stay behind, or are you going with Etienne?
I have a request.
So go ahead.
And Urtica will like retrieve the special pouch of seeds, and will retrieve this thorny like jet black seed. It's probably like maybe the size of a fist or slightly smaller, and sort of not quite offer it out to Vile Gardener.
Gas one.
Gassed one.
Gas. Yeah. You'll
but-
find my names are very weird.
But
So,
we'll like
Gassed
show
one.
Gassed one the seed. I wish to grow this.
So before that, please roll, and Urtica specifically, I think, a scrutinize, or yeah, scrutinize first.
Elora looks fascinated. by the
Oh,
way.
It's
so
a
I
critical
didn't set-
fail.
yeah, I didn't. Again, I keep forgetting to set difficulty ratings, but it was going to be a 0 difficulty rating. Like this is just a baseline kind of thing. So you critically fail, which means you're absolutely oblivious. I mean, I don't normally. I think you would take stress sort of damage, but it's like a home base area. You're not like in a high stakes poker game or whatever.
Yeah,
critical
there's no
fails generally.
threat directly to
Yeah,
cause
so-
the stress.
Yeah, no, like it. Yeah, I think the rule, like, I'm not gonna make you lose stuff for like, a random roll in the home base. So you're just oblivious to what I'm asking you to scrutinize. And Gaston sort of just shrugs, looks at you like, okay. And I guess you put it on the table.
She isn't going to let it out of her sight.
So you're holding it, right?
But yeah, and it's more like, and I guess she puts it back in the bag, and like,
So
there's a kind of like, let's meet up at the greenhouse at X time to to plant this
yeah,
thing.
I think this could be like, is this during, you did ask this during the meeting, like everyone's present when you
Yeah,
asked that?
yeah.
Okay. So then the scrutinizer role stands. So Gaston says, well, you want to do it right now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
All right. I think we're done here. And so he sort of, they sort of nodded, everyone. And like, that's basically what you go off to do.
Yeah, wonderful. Elora is like very definitely gonna follow Urtica, because there is a thing she doesn't know about, and it was in Urtica's hand.
Join us, Alora.
All right, so let's. I guess that's the resolving of the meeting. Like all that information I gave you, will assume that you got that, you all share that.
I've
knowledge,
been dutifully noting it down out of character.
Yeah, I've
so.
also noted it down.
All right. So we'll do Etienne and the graveyard keeper.
Yeah.
You're being since you went out first. You're being followed, right? And you're aware you're being followed. I think.
Yeah, so I think Etienne, like, I'm picturing him as like, he's not a unkind person or anything like that. He just doesn't really have like social niceties because like he's not had that much experience with socializing. Um, so I think what happens is he does that thing where he like tries to walk faster than the person to like avoid having to talk to them. But then once it becomes clear that the graveyard keeper actually catches up, he does that awkward thing where he pretends he wasn't trying to walk too fast to keep away from the conversation and just like very awkwardly and very obviously acts like he didn't realize the graveyard keeper was there, even though he did.
So you get the impression that your efforts at not appearing awkward are completely lost on the graveyard keeper. Like he doesn't seem to care. Like he was following you. He's followed you. You stop moving, so like he stops moving. He kind of looks at you and says, "Yeah, I've got the key."
Etienne just kind of like raises his hands up in the air, like, well, you could have said so during the meeting, but
That's
I
why
guess better late than never.
That's what I want. I want bodies. And
So
I'll give
what
you the key. They can,
So
they can come
you're
later.
saying, let me get this very straight. You're saying you want me to bring you dead bodies, corpses, in exchange for the key.
The key, yeah, for the key. Dead bodies for the key.
And you're not saying you want me to kill people for the key, because I'm not going to do that. I've just arrived in this area. I'm not going to start killing people for no reason.
Just bodies. Just bring me. I need something in the graves to keep, and then it'll be right. So
Okay.
if I give you the key, you gotta promise to bring me something.
Oh, so
You
you're
don't
willing
have
to give it to me now, so long as I bring you bodies later.
Yeah.
That's very trusting of you. But I'll honor that arrangement on the understanding that I'm not going to go out of my way to harm people in order to get the bodies. But if I find
You don't
bodies that are
kill
able to
people
be
to get
transported,
bodies. Why would you kill someone to get a body? You just need the body. They don't have to be dead.
well,
And I think he says that in like a passing comment as he's walking towards
uh-huh.
the tower. Like he walks past you, like they don't gotta be dead. And I think that's when he gets to the tower and like unlocks it for you basically. And I think he keeps the key unless you specifically ask him for it. Now, do you want to do the tower section now, or should we do the ceiling?
I think I'll wait for everyone to be there for like actually going into the tower.
So
But
that's
I think I say to him, the Gravedigger is a he, isn't he?
Yeah, it's Devarto Savat is his full name,
Devarto.
and he's
I think Etienne says to him, well, thank you, Devarto, and I will try to honor my promise as best I can.
Thanks. Yeah, bodies for the key.
The Gravekeeper's going to have his own oubliette, isn't he?
Oh God. Etienne is just slightly unsettled by the idea of someone who doesn't like see the correlation between a graveyard and the bodies having to be dead.
So yeah, that's like he's basically it sort of cuts on like the awkward like he's sort of staring at you like, and you're just standing in the doorway basically. So we'll cut over to this is what happens, and Erdica and Gaston. Why do I name these? Gaston are walking out, and then Elora following behind, and are you saying anything? Gaston isn't very talkative. I think you sort of just walk up to
If
the.
you're if
Elora,
not
Elora does seem very talkative.
if neither of you are saying anything, Elora is definitely saying stuff. She's caught up to like beside where you are, Ertica, and I like I'm just imagining the height difference. You know, like she's looking up from her notebook at you and going, "Okay, so
Gigantic slender man creature.
yeah, so what was that you just took out? I've never seen a seed like that before. I mean, it was similar
This-
to a couple of things that I've read about, but I've never.
This is a seed from my home.
Really? Well, wait,
It must be grown here. It is important.
why? Why? And what does it do? And what does it grow into? And what is it called? And where's your home? And what is that called?
There's just a kind of shrug. A place very different than this.
She's writing what you're saying down, but you can see that she is unsatisfied with the vagueness of your answer.
As I have said, I am not from here. Everything is unfamiliar. The assumptions of this place are different.
Different in what way?
Describe the air that you breathe. Describe the water in which a fish swims. There is no city where I come from.
I mean, if you gave me enough
There is
time,
no speech.
Oh, she notes again. There's the sound of scribbling as she like writes down what you're saying and says like, "Okay, I'll wait for better answers, more concise answers, but I'll give you time to acclimatize before I really, begin my inquiry in earnest. But I definitely want to see what you do with this seed."
There is much that both of us do not understand.
I hope to change that.
Do you know how to use a shovel?
I
Do you understand how to use a shovel?
assumed that you would.
I understand how to use a shovel, yes.
So the gardener hands you a shovel. You're at the gate to the garden, and they open the door into the place, which is like again, I described it as like a walled off like section with a simple wooden door, I think it was. Anyway, they open the door, and you see basically a patch of dirt that's like arranged in rows of plant stuff, or like farming, whatever those farming strips are called, whatever you'd call that. And there's a few plants already growing there that mostly look like food. I don't really know what kind of food, fantasy corn and like fantasy potatoes, that kind of thing. Basically fantasy plant life. I mean, I will just call it, food. And it says they basically motion for you to come in and like plant the seed where you want to find a patch. Like anywhere's fine.
She like takes the shovel in this iron grip. Just it's like being it's offered out and it's just like chunk. And then heads toward and she's making this kind of like follow gesture to Laura and is like, do you know much about botany? What would be the botany skill? Like
that would be a trait. Well, so growing stuff itself, I think would be tradecraft, like farming. I think would be the like farming, like general like growing of things. There's survival has plant lore, but that's more like what plants will kill you if you eat them in the wild kind of stuff. And then you could also take education botany if you want to be like scientific about it. Like this is the genus of like the wild mustard plant or like stuff like that. So those are like the three.
Tradecraft is the practical application, and education is the like
theoretical
I
stuff.
think her answer is probably like, in theory. I'm familiar with it in theory. I've never grown anything or planted anything or done any gardening myself, but I know how it works.
I've watched a lot of YouTube videos.
There is no better time to learn anything than right now. What can you tell me about this? And she like retrieves the seed again, and like isn't going to let it go, but like holds it in a thumb and forefinger in front of like as close to Alora's face as she can.
And Elora like leans in, so she's getting like the. If this were shot on a show or whatever, it'd be like the seed in the big foreground and like her face blurry behind it. If you know what I mean.
So it is like a burr. So it has all of the kind of like the prickly
Little
spikes to kind of like
hooks,
attach to something.
hooks and prickles. Yeah.
But it is also, I'm imagining it like like you know those plant calluses. What are they called again?
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. The parasitic kind of thing that grow on plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think I
I
mean
can't
they're
remember the name, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
like cysts
Yeah.
kind of for plants. I don't know what they're. I don't know. I'm
Okay,
not a
so
botanist.
she's looking at it. She's like looking it over and notes the burr like quality of the object. She seems to take a few moments to like fully commit the seed to memory. You know what I mean? Like trying to like make sure she knows like what it is or like what it looks like because
A
you
ghoul. That's the
you
one.
oh yeah, okay, you seem reluctant to release it, so she wants to make sure she can remember it.
So
Is there a skill I can roll here?
yeah, I was just
Buck
thinking about
Prince?
like what you could roll, and I don't
I,
think it really matters
I
because you
don't
don't
really
have it.
I don't really
So
have it. Yeah.
I would just say roll survival. We'll call it a survival test
Okay.
because this is like recognizing plants, like and that's the place you might spark something from.
Okay.
So just roll survival, and this is a very difficult roll.
Oh, okay.
So you're at minus 30.
Well, I definitely do not get it.
That makes it a
Hang on.
99. Jesus.
Yeah.
The most
So, yeah.
unrecognizable ghoul-like spiky alien seed.
Oh yeah, plus I got that backwards. Wait, did I?
She takes a moment. She takes a moment to like look at it, and then her expression turns from curious to like irritated almost. And she shakes her head and says, "I don't know this one."
So at that point, Gastuan is like, "Really? You're gonna ask her? My name is literally Vile Gardener, and you're asking her about a seed? Why don't you just put it over there and plant this thing and just get it over with? Like, really?"
She is a seeker of knowledge.
And I'm a gardener.
He would have more practical experience. They would have
I got
more.
it wrong.
They would have more
before.
practical experience.
The implication is thou art not a seeker of knowledge, but
I'm a grower of plants.
and she like rises to like her full height again and kind of like clumps over to the Vile Gardener and kind of like, have you ever seen one of these before?
Now, relative to ogres, like how tall are you? Because they are also an ogre. So like your full height might just be like
Regular
same
standing
as them.
height.
Like
Probably taller than average for an ogre.
okay, so you're slightly taller than they are. So your height difference might play a little bit of a role in intimidation. So they look at the seed, and let me just do a little roly poly for them. This will be secret, so that I can bluff their ignorance or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I've totally planted hundreds of those in my time.
He looks at it, looks back at you, like, and you're strange looking because you're wearing like a bone white mask and you're like a shadow person. And they like cock their head, say, "Nope, no idea. But if you want to grow something, I'm the one that's going to be tending to that thing. So put it in the ground and we'll see what happens."
Very well. And so
I
she
assume water, sunshine, same thing as any other plant.
somewhere shaded. Sunshine is unnecessary.
Okay, so it's they say the name of like I'm sure there's a name for like those kinds of plants that thrive in like
Like
the twilight or
yeah,
whatever, you know, shady plants, you know.
Yeah.
So uh, they say that like oh, it's like one of those plants. So they point out like a place that gets less sun.
And so yeah, to get grab the shovels, and with like unusual amount of care, like kneels down and almost like after having aggressively dug the hole, kneels down and kind of almost ritualistically gently places the thing, and then with bare hand, like throws the shovel aside, and with bare hands kind of like mounds the just very carefully and very like tenderly mounds the dirt around the seed.
Elora has averted her gaze entirely and is busy drawing the seed in her notebook to try and make sure that she can refer to it later.
Okay, so can you I don't know if that needs a roll, right? Like I don't think it matters, but generally speaking, like that would I think the accuracy of a drawing of like in this case it doesn't really matter, but I think we'll I need to figure out what skill that would be
Yeah,
basically. But
yeah, definitely.
because I think
Does it
that's
not
something
really
that,
matter because it's like a key part of my character
oh,
development?
no,
but-
no. What I mean is that you have a whole sack full of these, and like how Alora knows what the seed looks like isn't gonna matter because the reference will be there. Like it's sort of it's
You have the
assumed that
object.
the information is free and available at all times, rather than it being like a thing that you copied down from some ancient.
I mean, I'm willing to make a roll if we want to decide what the roll
How
would
accurate
be.
the drawing is.
Yeah.
That's some. But when I didn't mean to say that your character doesn't matter or whatever.
I mean, maybe like if this is a weird seed from an alien world, so like Elora may be the first person to botanically characterize this thing.
It's true.
So yeah, if you plan on publishing your notes, like
This is
suppose
seminal
the
work
rule
here.
matter,
It's,
yeah.
it's seminal
So-
work. All right. So what should I roll for drawing things, but Prince? What
I
do you
think
think?
that falls on. I mean, it would be like a trade craft technically, right?
Okay, like an artist tradecraft kind
But
of
rather than willpower, I'll make you roll a perception.
a perception.
So it's like tradecraft with perception. So
Uh,
just roll. I mean, that's not how the system works technically. I don't think. I don't think you're meant to do that way. So
Well, I can just roll tradecraft and we'll see if she's
Yeah, I
probably
mean,
not a very good artist.
yeah,
Given my stats, but we'll see.
yeah. I would say perception would be the thing normally, but also tradecraft under willpower sort of doesn't. So just roll tradecraft. Yeah, we'll just call all
It's fine.
tradecraft things.
I do not draw a very accurate. I basically draw a burr. Like
So yeah, this first iteration of your drawing of the seed probably wouldn't really. It's like those people in the olden days who like tried to draw a lion from description.
yeah, it's not great.
It's that quality of like it sort of looks like it, but
I think
it
she's
also
too
looks
distracted by. I
completely
think she's
weird.
too distracted by the fact that she's never seen one before, even in references. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That she's like thinking about that too much and gets distracted while she's trying to.
So you can note down that you have a poor quality depiction of whatever we
Okay.
call those things, shadow seeds, I think is what we call
Yeah.
them. But yeah, so
alright.
going forward, I think I'll make it a scrutinized test to remember like. For like scrutinize is basically recalling information. So what that kind of drawing would do is if you ever needed to recognize a seed out in the wild, it would that's a very good drawing of a seed I just saw pop up on Discord. But yeah, basically it would help your scrutinized tests be easier if you needed to like remember what the seed looked like, but you failed, so it's sort of basically a useless picture.
That's fine.
So that's that's
It's
the
just
kind of
it's
mechanical
just
side of
for
things.
for
So
narrative purposes. She
Yeah,
draws
like,
a poor drawing.
it was completely useless attempt.
So once Urtica finishes their sort of ritual planting of the seed, Elora sort of clears her throat and says, "We should probably go and meet up with Etienne."
Indeed. Do you know why things can only grow here and not elsewhere in the city?
So are you asking
I'm
the
asking
gardener?
the room at large.
Okay, because Alora, I think you have initiative here as far as answering that question. And if you want out of character knowledge, I can tell you what
Well,
you might think. But
if I
she has-
had to theorize, the changing nature of the city means that anything that has to sustain for a long period of time in a delicate environment probably wouldn't do very well. There are places, I think, where things do grow, but they tend to be exceptional to the rule. If I'm absolutely incorrect, Bud Prince, feel free to out of game correct me. I'm just
this is this is like Elora's.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you free out of character information unless I think your character would have that information.
Of course.
And I think, that's a theory, perfectly acceptable theory to have.
The city beyond repairs itself, does it not?
It
these plants something that require repair? Are they perceived by the city as damage?
Well, they're certainly not native or they're not inorganic. They take up a certain space in the ever-changing vortex that is the city. My thought, if I had to guess, would be that they probably are perceived as foreign.
Some plants will crowd others out. Thorny vines will choke the life out of all other plants in their vicinity. Is that not true? And she looks at the gardener.
So the gardener is sort of looking at you both and very uninterested. And they say, now the thing you're planting here, it's not some kind of like weed or like parasitic plant.
It is no weed. It is important that it grow.
Because I can give you like a pot, its own like thing if it's dangerous or.
There is no danger. she might be lying. She doesn't care. it's her mission to grow this thing.
So if you are like, if you don't care, then you don't care. But if you're actually actively lying, then I will make you roll guile.
She is not lying. She just doesn't care. Like,
okay, then yeah, I think, but that comes across like you're not hiding the fact that you don't care. Then like,
I think it's like, yeah, it'll be fine. Like, it's not dangerous.
Okay,
It is
it's
very important.
just as far as like,
could I suggest that from Urtika's actual point of view, like she's telling the absolute truth as she understands it, because like in her world it isn't dangerous. In her world it's important. So even though it might be a different paradigm that she's in now, and especially since she's like new to this world, like it feels like what she's saying to the gardener is the truth as she understands it, unless like Ink can correct me if she like has enough knowledge to know that isn't the case here.
The danger here is that it doesn't grow. Like, if it grows, then I've completed my mission and the whole world will be better for it. Like, everyone will raise their hands in appreciation as the thing grows. And
so the gardener just basically gives you the squint and shrugs and says, well, if you're done here, then I'll get on with the gardening and you can go get on with whatever it is you're going to be doing.
Sounds good.
Do take care of it. Let's go.
And we go to meet up with Etienne at the base of the tower.
So Etienne, you're if you don't go, you're left alone. I think the graveyard keeper sort of shuffles off
Yeah.
afterwards. Maybe gives a little like a weird giggle and
Oh,
walks
good.
away. Like and shuffles back to the graveyard wherever that was. Uh, and then you're left alone basically at the tower for however long that conversation was. Do you do anything while you're waiting, or do you
Yeah, I
wait at the
think
gate?
what Etienne does do is he'd had like 1 or 2 glasses of wine at the bar, and like the implication seems to be that we're going to be heading out now, and he doesn't want to end up like tipsy on the road. So he goes over to the fountain in the center of the like home zone square, and remembering that Levist said that the water was perfectly potable, he like fills up a water skin that he has, like drinks like half of it, and then refills it to like full again.
Right. So while you're out there, basically you'll have seen people leaving the inn.
Yeah.
All the people that were in there basically go back to their sections or whatever, except for Levist and the weird lantern person, ghost, who you didn't really speak to and didn't actually really speak during the meeting either. And you're sort of like, why did they summon this ghost for a weird musical number? And like, no one really talked to him, but he was there sitting on his chair pretending to be very interested, or like sort of miming up like this thing. Anyway, he doesn't come out of the inn, so
Yeah.
everyone else you sort of see walk by, and by this time now you get back to the tower, and Elora and Erica have appeared from the garden.
Cool. I kind of do I when I get back, are they already there, or am I like arriving at the same time as they are, just from a slightly different direction?
That's up to you. I mean, at this point, you all are at the base of the tower. However, you
Okay.
want to do that.
It's probably the tail end of a conversation that's like the gardener is not the most curious sort.
Well, when you've sort of found your niche and you're stuck in your ways, then I can understand not wanting to expand beyond that. Know what you know, after all.
And as you guys are having that conversation, I think Etienne just kind of like sees you coming, and kind of Mock holds up his axe like he's about to swing at the door, and then just like moves forward and just opens it because it's already been unlocked.
Oh, what? Did you find a key?
Etienne sighs and says, the gravekeeper had it all along.
Oh, well,
I think if I heard Urtica correctly, what you were saying about the gardener, I think that might be a bit true of all the people here. They seem a bit disconnected.
They are unlike us.
well,
They lack motivation. They just want to, do their thing.
Strange that I should have more in common with you, not being from the same world.
well, that's fair. I'm gonna have to inquire about that at some point, but we should get a look out across the tower.
Yeah, Etienne nods and says, "Do you want me to go first? I don't think there'll be any danger, but
Why don't you go first, Etienne? I mean, you opened it. You deserve to go first.
okay." Etienne goes first. Is the door like I remember it's like a wooden door with like metal like supports. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like just
Yeah.
imagine like the traditional planks of wood with like a metal strips over them to hold them together, and like a door handle with obviously some kind of key lock mechanism.
Yeah. Is there a catch on the inside so I can like keep it open, or will it just swing shut again?
I think
But the idea is I don't want like Etienne doesn't want us to like get locked in the tower if like the gravekeeper comes back and is like hee hee, and, like locks it with the key behind us.
So you basically would want to jam it open, kind of thing.
Jam it, or at least make it so like there'd be like a period of time where we could maybe hear someone trying to close it again.
So why don't you
Can you
roll?
just take the key out of the door and then just like
No,
the
the
key,
gatekeeper took the
keeper
key
kept the
back
key in.
with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think the door swings inwards for one, or yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know the logistics of doors is something that I'm not particularly aware of.
Traditionally
kind of, like-
speaking, doors that open to the outside always swing inward.
Yeah.
Okay, so it swings inward, and I think it sort of it sticks on its own, but it doesn't have any kind of particular mechanism for staying open.
Yeah.
So it's open and it stays open. It won't close without you closing it, or someone like Patches coming along and locking you in the tower.
Yeah.
And then you have to do a jumping puzzle, and it's sort
Ugh.
of damn Patches. Uh, but you do get an upgrade for your Estus flask. This is a Dark Souls 3 reference, by the way, if anyone is confused. But yeah, the door stays open, and so you walk into this. It smells like a building that hasn't quite been opened in a while. I don't know,
Yeah,
it's that
stale.
kind of musky, stale air, and it's a simple stone circular tower. There's a set of like stairs winding up the outside wall, or like the inside wall, like you know what I mean, like a spiral stair along the wall going up, and there's hand railings, and that's about it. There's nothing else really interesting at the base of the tower. It's just sort of a flat stone circle with some stairs.
But in that case, Etienne just heads straight up.
And the other two are following.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so
Etienne is slightly careful as he's going up the stairs, making sure they're all solid. Like, he doesn't want to, step on one and have it collapse from underneath him.
So you step onto the first step, and it because you're being careful, I think it starts to move on its own and carries you up the up the side of the tower like an escalator. And this is something that I guess you would have maybe experienced this before, is that stairs in the city are actually sometimes, or when they're functioning correctly, sort of magical, and they will rearrange themselves to help people move them up them.
Escalators.
So it's like an escalator, but only the step that you're stepping on. So basically, you step onto it, and like it recognizes your hesitance or whatever, and then it starts to move up sort of at a gentle pace. It's not like a scary like zooming straight. It's escalator speed at a comfortable kind of thing, and it's just a step. It's magically sort of shifting up the stairs. You know, realistically, it doesn't make any sense, but the way it does it is by sort of rearranging only
I'm
step.
picturing that kind of like Doctor Strange reality ripple effect, where it just kind of like ripples from the first step to the second step and then just keeps going up that way.
Yeah, but it's literally like the step you're stepping on is solid and real, but it is moving. It's like moving up the stairs by itself. So that's what everyone else sees, and this is probably only strange to Urtica, but the knowledge you have of the city sort of seems to be superseding your previous memories of the Shadow Garden and like the Feywild. So you get that jolt of like, huh, that's weird, and then you're like, oh, but that's just how things are, kind of thing, right? So you're do you follow Etienne?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so you all I don't know if you walk or you use the escalator method, but you all get up to the top of the
So if
tower.
someone skipped the first step, then they could just walk normally.
Yeah, you can use the stairs normally, or you can use them in the escalator method, or you can turn. There's basically various configurations that you would be.
I mean,
aware of.
Alora's just like, it works. I'm gonna do the escalator thing because it works.
Because that's the feature of the city, is that stairs turn into like escalators. They can turn into ramps if you need
I can't wait for the combat on like two sets of moving escalators where one's going up and one's going down.
Yeah, and this is an expectation of the functional part of the city, right? Like out in the city proper, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it works in a negative way where you can, get in trouble with this kind of malfunctioning
you get
system.
rapidly catapulted like 30 feet up into the air.
So but I don't think you would have experienced that necessarily in your situation.
No.
growing up where you grew up, and Elora, maybe not, but definitely not Vertigo. But yeah, so you all get to the top of the tower, and this is a mechanical part of the game.
Yes.
So essentially, this is the lookout tower, and normally I would just reveal all the tiles around the thing, but let's, for a little bit of excitement and like a mini game kind of reveal, let's why don't you choose a direction to look
Oh,
in
nice.
first,
Okay.
and then I'll
No.
reveal the tile. So I don't really know how to do this. I guess by
All right. I'm gonna
the
say
clock
this
face.
this 6 o'clock tile. That's the one for me.
South.
Okay.
Yeah.
South. So yeah. So let me get
Oh, yeah,
to
we
the.
can all just ping on the thing, can't we?
Yeah, I realized that as I was saying. Oh, how do we figure out?
If you
where to
click
look?
and hold,
Oh,
it pings. Yeah.
Roll 20. The magic of Roll 20 lets you click on things. So everyone's okay with South.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll just do that. So it is a Cosmos District tile.
Ooh.
What does that
Now-
mean?
What does it look
So-
like? Yeah.
So what that means is that this is the biome for that tile. This is all out of character information.
Of course.
But it's a biome basically. I call them districts because it's a city, and I guess that's the word that I came up with, or that
Yeah.
I decided to use for that kind of thing.
I like it.
So yeah, it looks like Cosmos districts are essentially picture like telescopes, like big spires, domes, and like they're all. It's a district that's focused on
The sky.
above,
Yeah.
on the beyond, on the ideas of astrology and astronomy and gazing out into the cosmos and seeking knowledge beyond like the earthly matters, right? So it's like a sort of a science
That sounds relevant to our interests.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay.
That's just one type.
All right,
of
let's keep
district
revealing.
rules.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's just go. Let's go in a circle from
So-
south all the
Okay.
way around.
When you say we're seeing this, like what
Yes.
from the actual top of the tower, like how
Yeah.
much of it can we see? Because I imagine that the tower isn't like as tall as the spires in this Cosmos district we're looking
So
at.
mechanically, you're basically acquiring all I'm giving you here is the district of the thing. So I'm describing, if I describe like spires and stuff, it's just assume that it's a Cosmos district.
Yeah.
And as
So
far
we're
as
just
what you're
basically seeing like a skyline, but no specific
yeah,
details.
essentially,
within the
yes, a
skyline.
skyline is
Cool.
the idea, I think, and that gives you the information as to which district it is. We'll say through knowledge of your characters and like you've been around the city enough to know that there's this different districts. That's sort of the flavor there, right?
Sounds
Yeah.
good. So give us another tile. I wanna
Okay,
see
yeah.
this one here. This one. Oh,
The
fountain.
Fountain district. So fountain districts, as you can imagine, a lot of waterworks and like waterfalls and fountains, of course. So they're very watery in theme, and that might remind you of the fountain in your home base. There's like big water displays and like water flows through here. Aqueducts are a feature, that sort of thing, right? It's they're sort of like a social, I'd say, district as far as like their purpose would have been outside.
Yeah, I was
of,
going to ask if like people would be more likely to congregate in water-rich areas.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, basically these districts are all like the mythology around them, I guess, or like the function rather of them is different from what they are now as to what they were intended to be, kind of.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So like this is the intended place we can assume out of character is that they were like social kind of areas, gathering places. You meet by the fountain to like hang out with your friends or whatever, right? So that's like a district of pretty water, and like it's nice and soothing. Maybe on a hot day you go head out to the fountain district, right? So that's what the fountain district looks like.
Cool.
And I was going to say, once you have explored these tiles, I will be giving you that information as well. If you recognize this specific tile, when you look out
Oh, of
there,
course, yeah,
you'll
like-
get that information like beyond just what district it is. But for now, you only know the districts of these places. So
Yeah,
that's-
because
that's
we haven't been to any tiles yet. Yeah.
yeah, that's basically how that works. So going in a circle, continuing in a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hell Iron District.
Hmm.
So this is a district of heat, of metal and industry.
Forges and industry.
Yes,
We
and
might
it's
find a
very
smith in such a district.
perhaps, or you might find death by
I-
lava.
Yeah.
So this is imagine shimmering heat, like the atmosphere around this place is like you can see the heat
This is
from a distance.
some city of
Heat,
brass action.
Yeah, and then there's like probably part of it looks to be like it's on fire, and there's probably smoke rising and embers fill the atmosphere out here. You would be able to smell it if there was any kind of logical reason or dimensional congruity.
Just looking at it
Yeah,
makes you
congruity.
sweat.
Yeah, like
Ugh.
because you don't actually perceiving these spaces. They're sort of dimensionally outside of where you are now. Like you're in kind of a bubble almost. So it feels like you should be able to smell and like feel that heat, but you have no perception
Mhm.
of it beyond like the sound and the sight, I think.
Yeah, and I'm assuming the boundaries between like the other zones are also like impermeable. Like there's no overlap between the Fountain District and the Helline District, where there's just a bunch of steam rising up because fire's hitting water.
That will remain to be discovered.
Remain to be
Ah.
seen.
So you'll see how transition between places works.
Yeah.
If we get into that this session or whenever we get into it. Next tile, I guess.
Yes, hit us
Yeah.
up.
And I have to be careful to put these on the map layer, not the token layer. Exalted. Now it's a general kind of, I guess I would describe it as a fancy neighborhood, right? Like a district of sort of, this is the Anor Londo kind of.
It's a district of
setting.
means.
Yeah, and like ornate. It's ornate and like, sort of gilded, like spires and like beautiful arches, and it's very like marble stone.
Yeah.
Everything is fancy looking, and it's like statues of golden warriors standing. Like it's kind of like Anor Londo. If you've all
Yeah,
familiar
your
with
Anilondos, your
Simpsons.
Minas Tiriths, your
Yeah, it's like
various fantasy cities of gold and
fanciness.
marble.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's also slight like French aristocrat, like the Versailles
God.
and like that
Yeah.
kind of feeling too. Like there's maybe like hedge mazes and stuff. It's sort of like a noble-ish feeling. Like it varies obviously because everything in the city is a different architecture. Everything changes and shifts. So, but that's the general vibe. Like it's sort of like pompous, but also, quite exquisite. Exquisite
Uh-huh.
is the word. That's maybe what the word I should have used instead of exalted. But
Mhm.
exalted, there's other features that will play into that.
Yep.
Anyway, that's the next hex. And the next hex is, of course, this one.
Another
It's another
Cosmos district.
So same description, but obviously different. But
It will be a
it's,
different place, but from our perspective,
Yeah.
it is the same as the other one.
same
currently.
district. So
Yeah.
the themes and the stuff in there is similar to the other one. So we'll move right on to the next one. Roiling.
Sounds
Now,
bad.
roiling
Yeah.
is similar to Hell Iron in that it seems to be a kind of.
I'm
It's not heat.
I'm noticing a color distribution here.
Well, thank you for noticing, but that is mostly to do with whatever color I thought sort of fit the
Oh,
name.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't ascribe meaning to that specifically because that way it's this is just so I could just differentiate them. Right?
Okay.
Like
I
there's-
just wanted to
It's
make
not
sure.
indicating
I just wanted to
difficulty.
make sure it wasn't like the red ones are hard and the purple ones are curious and the blue ones are good. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
no, like I don't want to. I think I kept the information to basically the name, and like,
Okay,
the color
alright.
coding is just for that because it's
no,
easier that
it's
way.
and it's pretty.
So yeah, roiling is like a kind of a flux district. It doesn't seem to be very stable, but it is stable. There are unstable hexes. I will say that much.
Mhm.
And this is not an unstable one. It's just the one that seems to be either under construction. I'd say it's like a a work in progress district, maybe
Like city
like,
construction
permanently.
zone. Yeah.
Yeah, like permanently under construction, but like intentionally so. Like maybe this is where things like raw materials would come from.
It's an
Yeah,
MC Escher painting in progress.
yeah,
That
but
also
like
opens up the
made of
possibility of like understanding how the city works, maybe?
True.
Question mark.
Yeah.
like quarries kind of vibe. Quarries. I can't stop saying quarry. You know what I mean? The stone
You know,
dugout,
Corey,
like
Corey's, Corey.
quarry. Am I saying it's like because it's
That is how you say it, yes.
It is.
it's tripping me up because it sounds like I'm saying it wrong, but I can't pronounce it
it's
any
correct.
other way.
No, it's correct.
Okay.
Corey is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So like stone cuts and like like towers of like scaffolding almost like it's like a under construction. That's the only way I can really
Yeah.
describe it. And this is one of those districts that they don't always have like a sort of recognizable architecture or whatever, but it's all you get the idea that it's this. I mean, you know, you can see it. You know when you see it, basically, but it's not. They're not very uniform in their
Yeah.
contents, right? And those are the tiles that surround the home square or hex.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And you can choose to open one door into one of these places to explore.
Oh yeah, we were told
Uh,
it only opens one door from the home, so we can't go back into
For
the
now, yeah.
home and then open a different one. We gotta go.
Yeah, you
into
have to go
one
through.
and
You'd have to explore through the city after opening that door.
then- Okay.
Yeah. Etienne like looks at the other two, and says, anywhere look good to you two?"
Definitely not that one. And points at the Hell Iron District.
Yeah, Etienne nods. Yeah, that would be my instinct too.
Well, I mean, any of the others, and the Hell Iron District, obviously, but you've already vetoed it. Would provide us with some of what we're looking for, I think. The Exalted District may be a good place to look for runes, glyphs. Sorry.
Or medical
theoretically?
supplies. You think
Yeah.
if they've got a more high society thing going on, they might be able to afford more expensive stuff. And well,
But it
like
may
I
also
said
be
last time, medicine
it
is
may also be expensive to acquire.
well. That seems we're going to pay for it.
Well,
There are other ways of acquiring things.
I suppose. The Cosmos districts are always interesting.
The towers may give us a good view of the surroundings.
That's true.
And
So an outer character note is you'll find stuff in all of these districts
well, of course.
as far as stuff
Yeah.
you're looking for. And like I also wanted to explain like traveling through them. There's another option. Actually, you know what? We'll get to that when we get to it.
We
I
gotta
think.
pick a tile first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pick a tile. But basically, like stuff you'll find doesn't necessarily correlate to the name of the district. Like,
Oh, I know. This is just
And
as in character.
We're just making
hypothesizing.
some
Yeah.
role
but
playing.
I want to make that clear. Like, these district stuff is very much a surface level. Like,
Yeah, there's no expectation of us being right in the stuff our characters
No.
are saying.
yeah. I wanted to get that out, like as a out of character thing.
No, for
just
sure.
Information wise.
Well, I'm thinking certainly not the Hell Iron District, and certainly not the Roiling District. At least initially. So that leaves us with 4 options, 2 of which are both Cosmos districts. So, does anybody have a preference? I'm not very interested in fountains, personally.
I know I'm not very interested in nobility. So,
All right, that leaves us with...
The city in flux may tell us something about how this place works.
It's also likely
it
to
is
be a little more
dangerous.
unpredictable. Yeah. we may be able to get to it from one of the others, but I don't think I want to exit the home directly into it.
South. Yeah.
It's south. Why not south? I have no data to suggest any other direction would be better.
Sounds good to me.
Indeed, agreed.
All right. And so we are agreed.
Yeah.
South
To
tile,
the cosmos.
but
What
Prince.
does exiting
So-
south look like?
Yeah, your exits are north, west, east.
I was about to make the same joke as I would say, enter, go south.
So opening the door, I think, like we don't need to do like a big scene of like figuring out how to open the door. You basically get to the door. It's a big, arched door. Seems sort of like a portcullis style, and it has like a winch, I think, to open it. So it's like a heavy set, like spinny wheel kind of thing. That seems like it's part of a larger mechanism, perhaps, which is why only one opens at a time. You can surmise, but like you either get Levis to explain it to you, or you just go there and like open it, and it cranks open with a distinctive sort of chunking noise, right? And you are revealed the Cosmos District square. Now, I was going to ask how you wanted to represent yourselves on this map exactly. If you had a preference of token, or like, should I just, keep track of it?
I mean, we can
Do you-
just
do you-
for now we can just like know where we are.
Yeah, okay. But if you,
You can always put
that's
like
something.
one token on the map that just represents the group moving.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking is, which of you do you want to have a token of? Is it,
It doesn't matter as
you
long
don't
as
care?
it's yeah.
Okay. So that's the current. You're at the entrance to this place, and this is as I described, Cosmos districts. There are towers and domes and telescopes and like weird spires that rise into the sky. And the first thing we should do is determine the weather.
Okay.
So could someone please roll a d4?
Two.
Hot, clear, and breezy. So that's the weather. It's currently summer in this tile, and it's currently hot, clear, and breezy. So it's a heat, but that's cut by this nice warm breeze, and you get this atmosphere like comes through the door as it's opened, right? So like suddenly you've got a connection to this tile where before it was kind of this, you know, uh, cut off space. This is like an entrance into this new hot, clear, and breezy air, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the sense you get. It like blows through as you open the door.
So here's my question, Bud Prince. Before you get into describing our entry into the Cosmos District too readily, do we want to take a break?
So last time I didn't take a break, and I really needed to pee. So let's just take
So let's-
even though I don't feel like I need
So
the
let's
bathroom
just
right
let's
now.
just
Let's
take
a break
quick
now.
break, and we will be right back with more. See you in just a couple minutes, friends. Hey, what's up?
So Dad just won like $2,000 on a radio contest.
Oh, nice.
So I'm gonna be having breakfast on him today.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was funny.
Neat.
Yeah. So random. I really needed the money too.
That's good.
Ooh, also it's Siobhan's birthday today.
I know.
We should. I was thinking of picking up like an ice cream cake or something.
Could be good. I'll when I'm done with this stream, which will be at like 11, then I'm free for the rest of the day. So I'll be like doing whatever she wants to do, basically. I'll ask her. I'll keep you updated.
Sounds good.
And we're back. Hello, friends.
Woo.
All right. We venture into the Cosmos District.
So the first thing I have to explain, because there's mechanics here that I'm. By the way, I've said this many times, but this is a work in progress, early access. Bugs may occur, et cetera, et cetera. But the first iteration of this mechanic here is there's two options when you first enter a tile. And the first one is to travel through the tile. And this represents basically you're trying to get through it as quickly as possible. You're not looking for anything in particular. You're just trying to get through to move on to the next tile. And this is maybe something that you'll do later on when you've got more idea of stuff you want to do out in the city. But that's the first option, is to travel through. And that's like a travel montage. There's rules for traveling that we'll engage with if you choose to do that. And the second option is to explore the tile, and that's what it sounds like. You're exploring what's
I
in
believe
the
we
tile.
are. Yes.
So that's your second option, and I think that's the one you're going for. So to describe this particular Cosmos district, it seems to be in perpetual night. The sky is filled with stars, and there's constellations that you've never ever seen before. Like there's literally, a whole other universe out there. It seems that if ever any of you have stargazed, you haven't seen these constellations before. It seems like something completely alien or new, and it's literally filled with these stars, like perfect, clear view of the sky.
Yeah, I think Etienne probably would have spent quite a bit of time like stargazing while guarding the oubliette / jailhouse. So he definitely notices that the stars are different. Whether he finds that strange or not, I don't know, because he's probably like been through other areas like on his way to home. But
I think in this case it is strange to you because it's so obviously different. Like it's so clearly not the sky you've seen before because of the number of stars. Like the constant, it's completely different.
And also, I suppose we did just walk from like daytime to nighttime in the space of walking like 20 paces, didn't we?
You literally walked through the door and it became night, and the door behind you is still open into the home square, and you can see it's daytime in there, but the light isn't coming through. There's like a delineation there that's very clear, like a line, like a loading zone in a MMORPG, if you want a real world example of what that would look like in the real world of this setting, right?
Dark Souls fog wall.
Yeah, well, it's not fog. It's you can see through it, right? So like but it's the same idea, yes, of course. So you walk out into this darkness, and because, like Etienne, for example, when you were stargazing, you might not always have a very clear view of the sky because the city lights lanterns usually, right? There's like street lamps. There's lights that appear in the houses that are, even if they're unoccupied, sometimes stuff lights up at night. So the city at night is still lit, usually. But here, it seems that all is darkness in the streets and only the lights of the stars, which are quite bright, and this is sort of a dim light situation, is keeping the street lit, right? So there's obviously an intentional system here that keeps this district in darkness so that the sky is clear and easier to see. So that's the first thing you notice.
Etienne looks around at the other two and says, do either of you have a lantern?
I'm not sure. Let me check.
I just realized I didn't go through that.
I do. I know that I do.
I do not.
So we're keeping this in character, I assume. But normally, of course, I would have asked if you wanted to resupply on anything. So currently,
I mean, you did last session. I just didn't think that a lantern was. I didn't think of it. Yeah.
What I asked last session was for stuff that you would have had before you got to the home base. Even.
Right. Okay.
But of course, and this is, I think we'll keep it in character, obviously, but it might occur to you that there's a storehouse in the home base for that kind of thing, right? Like if you don't have it, maybe you can go buy one.
I think rather than saying no, she just goes, or rather than saying that she doesn't know, Elora just says, No, I didn't think to bring one. You know.
I have a lantern. Actually, do I have? I have that inner light thing. That's not mechanically.
That's not a
usable.
literal. Well, it's not. No, in fact, you're quite hard to see suddenly.
Mm.
People maybe notice that, or don't notice rather. Urtica seems very shadowy in this darkness.
Mm.
She has some kind of aura of like darker than darkness, kind of like
Slurp into it.
shadow, right?
Wow, very interesting. Hmm.
But that's as far as like light sources. If it says it on your character sheet, then you have that thing.
So, did you say you have a lantern, Urtica?
Yes, Ertika, who you maybe like lose track of her for just a second,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
suddenly like behind you, lighting the lantern.
When Etienne says the two of you, he's like, do the two of kind of like has to look around for a second to actually notice that Urtica is still there, and then continues.
Probably
So I'm currently
casts.
having a bug on Roll20 where I can't open your character sheet, Urtica.
Hmm.
So I don't know why that is.
I,
That
I
might
can
be because I'm.
They have fire hardened spear, heavy boots, lantern, ladder down, military attire, oil pot, red cap mushrooms, a rucksack, a suit of leather armor, tincture, 3 of them, a wooden shield, and a mortuary sword.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, basically, I just wanted to check if lanterns required fuel or whatever like that. But I will just assume that there's enough light in that lantern for, you know,
For now.
purpose. Yeah, like again, work in progress, early access. For now, lanterns are
A lantern
basically.
lasts for 6 hours.
Okay.
Oh, okay. It says so in the
There you go.
rules.
So you,
Then
you start
6
with
hours.
probably a full charge of it, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
you
we'll
have
call.
to
I mean,
resupply.
And they have an
I
oil pot to recharge it.
Oh, there you go.
okay. So let's roll a d6 for the first for like how much is in the lantern now, and then the oil pot will be a full 6 hours. So you've got 5 hours of lantern in the lantern. You maybe
Nice.
used it earlier, right?
So
This
it
is to represent
it
just
does
need.
it does occur to me, that if the district is unlit, then maybe we shouldn't light any lights. Just going in. Hmm?
I don't
You
know. I'd rather
hazard?
not. Sorry, you going?
Are you expecting hazards?
Always expect something when you go to these new places. You never know what you'll run into. I'm just thinking like us immediately non-conforming may prove to be more dangerous than just taking our time.
I was less worried about, tripping over a step, and more worried about, someone jumping out of an alley and trying to, mug us or something.
It's only a suggestion. If you think the lantern would be better, certainly go ahead.
Then again, I just realized after saying that I suppose that'll draw more attention to us, won't it? So, having a lantern, I mean.
That was my thought, yes.
Right. I think Alora might be right, Urtica. Sorry about that.
Light and shadow is no different to me, and 2 is the lantern.
So, what's ahead of us, Bud Prince, like in this district? Where can we
So-
see or go to that looks interesting?
So there's again mechanically 3 approaches to exploration, and I think that'll determine what sort of I described to you.
Of course.
For now, imagine as I described it, spires, and you're in a street. This seems just sort of to. It's like a street that shouldn't have a door in front of it, and like the home base is sort of at an angle, like strange.
It's the arch situation in a Star Trek holodeck where the arch isn't necessarily like buttressed against anything. It's just
Yeah,
in the middle of
just
the scenery.
appears sort of, and the buildings are intersecting with the home base in that way, right? But around you is basically you're on the street level, but there's 3 approaches to exploration that I've sort of come up with. And that's one is street level exploration, where you follow the roads and the paths and the alleys of the hex. So that will uncover stuff that you would expect to uncover at street level of a like a city, right? So landmarks, uh, um, points of interest, buildings, that kind of thing from the outside. as well as you might run into the kinds of encounters you might expect to run into on a street, right? And otherwise, there's the internal exploration of like building to building looking for stuff. And this uncovers things inside of. Sorry, there's a lot of noise going on.
No, it's fine.
All right. Nothing's coming through on our end.
It's just distracting to me in the sense that I'm
Oh,
hearing
no.
stuff to. Anyway, so there's inside of building exploration, which is this will uncover encounters that would be inside buildings, so people living in them, stuff like that, or defenses of buildings, perhaps, and as well as resources that you would find inside buildings. So this is most likely where you would find glyphs, for example, would be inside of a building, and this is how it works is sort of a procedural dungeon generation, right? So I'll be rolling on some tables to generate what buildings look like inside, because I can't map out the entire city, every single building. So
of course,
it's constructed. It'll be constructed randomly. That's something to note. Whereas street level stuff, there's more sort of. It's not random, but it's also more nebulous. So building to building is a way of finding sort of.
I mean, I think definitely
inside.
like on our end, I think the building to building exploration is probably the way to go, based on the fact that we have stuff to find but nowhere to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't have a destination in mind that we're looking for. So
yeah.
Oh, and the thing about street level, and there's a third kind which I'll get to, but the street level is mostly how you explore to recognize the hex, right? So right now you found this hex, but you have no idea how you would recognize it from the outside again. As far as looking at it. So that's the key difference there. Like you can gather resources, or you can gather sort of information on that level.
Urtica's first instinct would be to kind of like prowl around the streets for a little bit,
Yeah.
checking out like what buildings exist, and then see
hearing it from that end, I definitely agree.
Yeah,
are there people on the streets? Like, is there an information kiosk? Is there the tallest tower? Like, is there a yard full of lumber? Is there like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's exactly the idea of like street level exploration. And the third, by the way, is rooftop exploration, which is limited in the sense that to get to the roof, you need to do a certain amount of either building to building, or if there's access ways that you can find through street level access, then you can get to the rooftops. And I should say, not all districts have very comfortable or safe rooftop access. There are some that are much more accessible. Generally speaking, from the fiction, Cosmos District, it's spires and domes, so like there's not a lot of. If you imagine the section of Einar Londo where those knights are shooting arrows at you and you're like running along a little buttress thing and like trying to not get shot off the edge, that's sort of the vibe you get from what that would be like in this district. Like you don't really. It doesn't seem like a very good
rooftop
idea.
district.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a good place for that.
So I'm hearing street level.
Yep, seems like it.
So let me go find the rules for this. And I'm sort of making a mishmash rule thing. So
I love it.
Sort of Zweihander, the normal navigation of like travel, right? But I think I want to make it simplified in that there's less roles. Normally, you each have a role in travel, where like well, let me just find the rules. Ooh, where are they?
Searching for the rules. We are
Travel.
searching.
Okay. Yeah, wilderness rules.
Well, while you're doing that, I think Etienne turns to the two ladies and says, well, I hope this time we'll be able to look around without distraction. Kind of like glares back in the direction of the door to the previous district. It's like, I don't know about you, but I don't like being micromanaged when I'm trying to look around a place.
They are certainly odd folk.
They were only trying to make sure we knew what was what.
Etienne nods and says, "Oh, I know. It's just I'm Guess I'm used to doing things more on my own than being led around by a tour guide.
I think most of us are. Um,
I don't presume to know your background beyond the little we've had a chance to talk.
oh, that's a good point. I suppose we haven't really done proper introductions, other than names. I'm
What we managed to cover in the dream.
yes, I'm something of a researcher. My people, they by the way, Bud Prince, if you find the rules, just interrupt me.
Oh, well, I found them. So,
Oh, okay.
But if you want to roleplay, I'm perfectly okay with you roleplaying because it is a role-playing game. So,
Ah. Well,
you
I'll
know,
continue my sentence then.
yeah, finish your introductions with each
My
other. And I assume this is happening as you're like maybe.
yeah, we're
walking,
just like
so,
walking around the streets.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll roll like again nebulous sort of setting stuff, and like you're walking, and this is happening as you're going to be going into the role for the actual mechanics. So like,
Yeah.
continue, please.
So when I set out from my home, my people charged me with learning as much as I could, and I suppose I charged myself with that as well. And I spent a lot of my time, probably the vast majority of my time, in a grand library somewhere out here in the city. It's very illuminating, very very educational. But I was by myself most of the time.
Uh,
A
so
noble
you
call.
going?
Whence this place? Whence this city?
Sorry, Ink, I missed the first part of that sentence.
A noble calling. Whence this place? Whence this city and these buildings? Whence all of this?
What a wonderful question. The metaphysical origins of the city are somewhat shrouded in mystery. I do hope to learn the answers to those questions, but I don't have them to give you, unfortunately.
This
Now,
place and the place from which we came are not linearly connected. And, like points back at the, the like boundary that is clearly some kind of portal that like
Yeah.
obviously the home base doesn't quite occupy the same space as this district.
no, and you'll find that next time we go through that door, it might not lead here. Everything moves in a grand scale. Whole districts shift and swap places and so on. It does make mapping the city quite difficult.
I think that's a good segue into determining the role of the navigator or the guide in this case.
Okay.
So there are three roles that I'm looking at here. One is guide, which is a navigation skill test. One is survivalist, which is a survival skill test, which for exploration of a hex, I don't think we're going to use. So there's only really two roles for exploration. For travel, that'll come up, but for exploration, we're just going to use guide, and then scout, which is stealth-based skill roles. Now the navigator, it does what a navigator does, and that's looking for stuff. So that's basically your searching role, and the scout is for like keeping track of threats essentially and hiding from them or preventing you from taking getting like ambushed essentially. So choose between the three of you who is the navigator or the guide and who is the scout to roll stealth.
Well, I don't have any stealth, so
I mean, I've got okay agility, but I don't have the stealth skill.
None of us have stealth, but I have a special attribute that helps.
yeah.
Go, Lego, then.
All right.
So the special attribute might not apply here because it's a group kind of thing. But it is, you get advantage on well, not advantage, but what you flip to succeed, or what is your?
Yeah.
So I think because it's a dark because it's specifically nighttime, right? I will give you the benefit of your special power, right? If it was like a sunny district, it might not apply, and so I don't want to like not give you the benefit of your ability, right? So I think I will stick to it working for this role. but maybe only because it's nighttime, if that makes sense. If that seems fair.
Nailed it.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait,
So
no. Wait, I don't
Well-
know. Maybe?
Yeah, what
mean,
happens if it's a match?
If you match, you succeed.
Yeah, you succeed. But also, you flip to succeed anyway. But that wouldn't matter here. But so you successfully stealth. So that means that basically you'll in general, what this means is that you can keep track of any threats coming, right? So which changes the way that I will roll on the random encounter table, right? And now, if you could roll navigation for me, whoever is the guide, please roll
Navigation.
navigation.
Elf, I have terrible intelligence on my character.
I
so I'm
I
gonna
will be
pass
the
that one over
I
to
will be the
you.
navigator. Yeah, I have a rank in navigation, in fact.
Oh, there you go.
So
Navigation has a star, which means it's a specialist thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so if Elf didn't
Yes.
have a rank trained in it, then she'd flip to fail.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's a very important skill to have, and I might change that going forward. But
Boom.
Ooh,
okay,
nice.
so you succeed. So I think what that means is I'd like for you, Elf, to roll me, let's say, 2d6.
Okay. 5.
5. Okay, and I guess should I? No, why don't you roll ink for? Roll me a 1d6. Okay, so
One. Is that good or bad?
I will refuse to tell you out of pure spite. No, generally speaking, I think the rules for Zweihander, and this is a general thing, like stuff happens on a 6 most of the time. So 6 is generally bad, and 1 or 1 to 5 is generally good, unless you want the thing to happen. So
Except in the case of, I think, like firearms, where I think a 1 is like the firearm backfires.
no, actually, firearms, 1, it explodes, and the dice explodes, not the firearm.
Oh,
So
okay.
that
I,
means you get to roll the
misread that when I
dice
read the
again.
rules. I was like,
Yes,
oh my god,
yeah.
the gun explodes if you get
Yeah.
roll a 1.
No.
It explodes in the sense that the
Okay.
die explodes,
You get
which
to-
means
right.
it's a good thing. And that's an example of 6s being good. In damage rolls, you want to get a 6 because then you can roll the die again. But with
Yeah.
firearms, you can re-roll on the 1 as well. So yeah, speaking outside of being a spiteful GM, generally 1 to 5 is what you want for this roll in particular, because this is the random encounter rule. But also expect that to change because I want to keep you on your toes. But here, I can be upfront. 1 is good, and 6 would have been bad. And for Elf's roll, it means something that we can do a little scene for. Right? I'm
Yay.
not going to tell you what the result on the table is. I'm just going to narrate it like a cool GM would. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So you're walking and you're walking and you're walking. Have you ever seen that episode of Dexter's Laboratory?
Yeah. You're walking.
I always think of that because GMing is difficult, really, and like I might say that kind of thing. Anyway, so you're heading through the streets, and it's it's a beautiful, beautiful place, really. Like, I think there's a sense of majesty to the kind of this cosmos arrayed above you, and you realize that the streets themselves are arranged in a specific manner as to follow these constellations almost, and like it's almost like a curated sort of stroll through the reverse of the sky, right? If you're looking up as you're walking and you're seeing this array of stars, and like the map of this is because you rolled so well on your navigation. You get this information. The sky itself is parallel sort of to the way the streets are lined, and it makes a pleasant, stargazing stroll.
Yeah, so the navigation is a lot of looking up and then looking back at the streets, and then
Yeah.
Alora like nodding to herself or making like a positive affirming sort of like yes like sort of noise.
And I think you sort of get the idea. Like, this gives you information, but the other thing you notice as you're looking up at the stars is that there are these strings, silvery strings, that shoot up occasionally from buildings and places. and they have attached to them something that seems to glow almost like a star itself, and they sort of fly up into the sky and then vanish almost. Like they shouldn't be able to reach all the way into the sky, but they seem to just stretch out forever, infinitely into the cosmos, right? These silvery strings attached to something star-like. And so you see these things go up occasionally, and I think the result is that you've spotted a large collection of them going up, or they've all been sent up at once, and you find, and because the stealth roll was very good, you don't get surprised by this, even though it's not really surprising. But you see a group of people holding uh, what appear to be fishing rods, and they've all got these silvery lines shot up into the sky, and they're sort of sitting as one would imagine people who are fishing are sitting in like a line, lines, sort of chatting and like very casually uh, hanging out, fishing the sky. And that's what maybe you've got the drop on them, you know, in the narrative sense and like the mechanical sense as well. Like they haven't noticed you. You've spotted them first. Erdica, I think, because you've got super stealth. Like you've got this information. You're the scout, so you're like ahead. You're the person who spots this. So you've got that, and you probably come back to the group, and you can plan like an approach.
So
Is there a reason we're not just walking up to them and being like, "Hi"?
Is that an out of character question?
Or I mean, this is like both in and out of character.
So out of character, I will admit that do what you want. I don't want to give you any kind of information as to like what your character would think, as like if you think that you would feel that this situation warrants caution, then by
we're
all
merely
means be cautious.
being given the option to approach it with caution. Yeah.
Yeah, but generally speaking, like I think you're like out of character. The situation, I will give you as much information as you want about the situation, but I won't tell you like if it's safe or not. Like I can't tell you that like out of character, but I can give you hints, or like I can tell you, ask me questions, I will tell you no lie. Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies. It's the same, but you get the idea. Like I don't want to like feed you information in that regard. Like I just want to present the reality of the situation.
What kind of folk are they? Are they like?
These are fish people. So they all have big, and they're maybe less traditional fish folk. Like fish folk and animal folk in general have a very human body, and then like a fish or like whatever animal head that normally you would have. These seem more fish than person, if that makes sense. So slightly more like fish-shaped bodies, fish scales on their legs and hands, and they're wearing sort of clothes that would quite loose, like robish looking clothes.
Yeah, more draped over them.
Yeah,
than, like,
they're not wearing
form-fitting.
like they're not tailored and like wearing human clothes kind of thing. They're wearing like sort of draped like cloaks, that the kind of thing a fish person would wear, I suppose.
Well, I don't see any immediate. They seem to be having a good time. Maybe we could just ask them where we might find things around here.
Also, maybe how they're getting their rods to, or the lines to stay up.
What are they fishing for, I wonder?
All questions that can be answered with direct inquiry.
Yeah, I'll stay on my guard just in case things pop off.
Oh,
but-
certainly. Be prepared for anything. But let's just take it easy this first time.
So I realize there's a mechanic that I could have answered your question with ink. And you can roll scrutinize to get an idea.
Yeah, that's kind of the tone of the situation.
yeah, I should just
It tells me nothing.
yeah. So your question as to whether or not this seems threatening in character is inconclusive.
I think Alora just like walks around the like corner they've been discussing behind or what have you towards the group of fish people.
Okay.
And just says, excuse me.
Please roll 2d6.
Okay. 5.
Okay.
Just
What's
so we're clear, Etienne will follow like behind Alora. Like he's not letting her go out just on her own.
okay? Let's look at Laura's character sheet quickly. I've just, I have to consult these things.
Yes, of
Laura.
course.
3. Okay, so you say hello, and one of the fishy fish, looks over to you with their big fish eyes. Imagine, these are like carps and like,
I'm imagining big
nondescript.
catfish mustaches.
Yeah,
Mhm.
stuff like that. They're generally very fish-like more than anything else, and they've
Yep.
got these huge eyes, and the huge eyes roll all around and then focus in on you, and they say hello.
I was just wondering, what you were doing, with the rods and the sky and the. I have a lot of questions.
We're fishing.
For what? What do you catch?
Well, look up.
She does. She looks up.
You see stars in the sky. Star stuff. That's what we're fishing for. The very matter of the cosmos itself.
And what? And what is one? And she once again like sort of the more questions that come up, the more flustered she seems to get for like the moment because it's like, okay, I didn't understand, but now I don't understand even more, And she says, and what do you do with the star stuff once you have it? That is.
Well, some of us like to put it back where we found it in the sky, if it's too small, for example. But if it's of an admirable size, we like to keep it as a trophy, or sometimes we partake of the star stuff itself.
Oh,
It's edible.
Uh, no, not edible, but it is enjoyable. Very enjoyable. Though some of us don't enjoy it because it's too enjoyable.
Oh, I think I get it.
Yes, understood. We're here looking for any supplies that we might be able to take back to our small community.
Supplies?
Yes. In particular, we are looking for, and she takes her notebook out and like flips the pages and says, "We are looking for, any raw seeds, any medical supplies, any glyphs, or a way to maybe move glyphs."
Etienne
Glyphs?
almost says bodies, but then restrains himself.
As well as, of course, curios and antiques and anything of curious interest.
Curios? Antiques? Well, the star stuff is a kind of medicine.
What does it help with?
It allows you to perceive the vastness of your smallness.
Ooh, no, I don't like the sound of that.
Alora's like, oh. Like, Allows me to perceive things. I love that.
Sounds familiar.
Oh no.
Would
Uh,
you like to try to catch some, perhaps?
Well, I mean, if you're being so generous as to offer us the opportunity to do so, then. And she looks to her companions for some kind of.
I'll watch, but I'll leave the fishing to you. Just bear in mind what they said about enjoying it too much. You don't want to get carried away.
Oh, don't worry. The fishing part is always enjoyable and never unenjoyable, if you enjoy it. Some people find it boring and they fall asleep, and then their lines go untended and they forget to collect their star stuff. But those people don't tend to stick around. We all here are a club of star stuff fishers.
You have a very nice little community here. How do
Thank
you how do you sustain yourself other than the star stuff? Is there food or like places to sleep or?
Oh, sleep. Interesting. No.
I see. Well, I would certainly like to try and fish for some star stuff.
Well, you'll need a rod then. A
Mm,
star stuff rod.
I don't have
You can
one.
borrow mine if you'd like.
You'd lend it to me? Thank you.
And the fish person, say she's a lady fish person.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, she had her rod like, how fishers have their rods like stuck.
Yeah, like in
Like,
the ground or
yeah, kind of
like on a
thing.
little stand.
She
Yeah.
had it on a stand. It's clearly, still active in collecting. She walks over to it. She picks it up, and it looks like a silver like stick, fishing rod.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of a strange globe, or like those rotating orreries. I think they're called the orreries that have like a bunch of rotating discs on them that
Oh
have
yeah.
the constellations, like
Right.
representation of planets, like the rotations of the planets. It has one of those at the base, like it goes like handle, orrery, then rod kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she picks it up, and she does some strange arcane series of motions, and the line sort of snaps and like starts reeling back in, right? It pulls back in, and you follow it maybe where it's coming from. There's sort of this line of stars being drawn with it, right? This, like, as if the sky itself is being sort of pulled in through this line, but not much of it. And it seems like most of it sort of dissipates, and she pulls it in. Says, "Well, I didn't catch much. Excuse me while I clean my rod of the stuff, so that I can keep this for myself." And she sort of takes the rod and like shuffles over to a big jar that you've noticed now, around the corner, maybe, or like it wasn't clear to you before, or you weren't paying attention, or whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of goes up to this big jar, this big glass jar. You can see through it, and inside it is, it looks like a night sky full of stars, and there's just this big group of this stuff. And she sort of takes her rod and like hooks it over the top, and then sort of scrapes the rod of the stars and like the sky matter, and then it gets it into the jar. She shuffles back over to you, kind of excited that she gets to show off her like nerdy hobby to you. Right? That's the sort of like, oh, ooh. And so she comes back, and the other fishing aren't really paying too much attention. They sort of occasionally glance over, but they seem to be very absorbed in their actions in their fishing activities, right? And she's now arrived in front of you, and she hands you the rod. Says, "Now, careful. It's a delicate instrument."
So it occurs to me, Bud Prince, is this a two-handed device?
Now, you wouldn't really. The way that they're holding them, you don't see like you wouldn't know. I think if it requires two
Fair
hands,
enough.
right? And it seems like it might not because it appears to just be a stick with like an orrery, and like the motions she made didn't seem to be particularly dexterous. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could probably plant it the way she had it planted on her stall thing and like operate it that way. So it doesn't seem like you wouldn't be able to use it with with one only one hand basically. But she hands it to you.
Okay, and I take the rod. Um, she says, "Be careful," and I reply, "So I just it's like
So
fishing. You just cast it into the sky."
so first hold the rod thusly, and she gives you an idea of how to hold it. Right? I can't gesture,
Sure,
but
there is a
there's
tutorial happening.
yeah. She maybe she's sort of uh, uh, sort of gets you. She puts you somewhere like specific. Like she maybe brings you over to where she was standing, and like she's very clearly demonstrating like the proper place to stand to use your rod and like the if you imagine like this is like a fishing explanation
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's for fishing in the sky, so it's like you have to have the right clearance to throw back your tackle or whatever. I don't know anything about
Not a
fishing, by the
fish,
way.
not a fishing person, but there's a montage fishing demonstration
Yeah,
happening.
essentially
Yeah.
stand here and gather your inner energies within your mind. Focus the eye of your and there's a lot of like nonsense sort of like the zen of fishing. There's
Alora
like
takes it
books.
all. Alora takes it
Oh,
all very seriously, obviously.
yeah, but it's sort of like I, oh, that's motorcycle repair. The zen of motorcycle repair.
Yeah.
That kind of book explanation of like focus your mind on like so on and so forth. And so she's explaining the philosophy, I should say, the philosophy of fishing, right? More than just how to fish like mechanically, right? So
Hmm.
it's like this is you have to have the attitude of like being one with the stars and
Yes,
like
of
being
course.
expect the fish to bite, but instead of fish she's describing actual like interplanetary movements and constellations, right? Now, I think there's probably a role involved as to how well you fish.
Yes. What role
The
would you
fish,
like me to make?
and this is another one of those weird ones where it's like, I don't know, this is something I made up completely.
What role is there for sky fishing?
I mean, you
Coordination?
Survival. I think survival
survival
is.
or
Yeah.
We'll call it. We'll pretend that it's like real fishing, but it's not really real fishing. It's survival is the good one, and that's on the perception, so that makes sense. So this is we'll just call it a zero modifier, like a standard.
I do not do very well at sky
Oh,
fishing.
well, it's your first time, and she's very like understanding. Oh, just be patient. You have to take it easy. The star stuff is like it's like true love. You can't go looking for it, but once you find it, you know.
Elora's she's too keyed up about new cool stuff to relax and chill the way the fish people do for their sky fishing.
So while this is happening, the other two characters, Etienne or
Yeah.
Urtica, do you have anything specific that's happening with you? Are you looking
Etienne
around or?
looks to Urtica and says to her, "So, in the Shadow Garden, you called it. Did they have fishing there?"
I don't know, do they? Maybe there are ponds and stuff. Like, what's the extent of
Hmm.
the Feywild?
Well, I think the Shadow Garden itself, you have a sense of the night sky, not fishing, but there's a connection there that you sense, that you felt, that like I explained, you're sort of losing your connection to that life, to that time of your existence, right? But the night sky to you feels very, very much familiar, and like you feel a kinship to this. Maybe
Uh,
not
uh,
fishing exactly, but like
I think we'd be
connecting to
queuing
the
up
sky.
to for a fishing lesson then.
So you're sort of hovering. Etienne is asking these questions as you like are next to this
Mhm.
fisher fishing woman.
And I think his answer is like, I don't know. And it's just this breezy kind of like, yeah, good question. I can't remember my own life.
Of something that you clearly should know. Etienne just kind of like nods slowly and doesn't like question that any further.
So speaking of Etienne, like I'm picturing fishing down the oubliette. Like I don't know why, but
I don't think Etienne has ever done fishing before. Like he
yeah.
knows what it is, but
It's just the sense maybe there's a connection there with like the idea of a fishing hole and an oubliette sort
yeah.
of have a kind of weird poetry to them, like they rhyme almost, you know, like
Mhm.
there's a feeling there maybe
I
of
think the feeling is like Etienne doesn't want to do it maybe because of like the rules around don't stick stuff in the oubliette kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even allowed to look there, and I did do that once, but so I think he definitely didn't like fish in the oubliette or something. So if it does remind him of the same kind of situation, then he'd be like even less inclined to try it. He's just gonna stand and observe.
So Ertika, you're setting up for a fishing lesson, is that what I
Mm-hmm.
heard? So I think after Laura has her try, like the fish woman sort of, well, maybe someone else would like to try. I think your friend would like to give it a go. And
I also don't make much headway fishing the sky.
so she at this point she's like, oh, maybe I'm not explaining quite how this works quite correctly. You see, and she's just pointing at the orrery and like trying to explain, like you must align the idea of the geosynchronous orbit of the interplanetary, and she's going into all these super technical, like hard to follow.
I
It makes absolutely no sense to you, like explanation of like star stuff fishing. That it's like a nerd explaining their favorite like programming language to someone who's never even seen a computer, like kind of situation, right?
I think after some time, making our attempts at starfishing, Alora will ask the teacher fisher lady, um, are there are there any people that live here that aren't starfishers?
People
Well,
who don't like to fish,
I
you
I,
mean?
I mean, are there any other pursuits in this area?
Pursuits like a chase of fish?
Uh,
Hobbies, I think she means.
well, or professions. There are a lot of telescopes and so forth. Is anybody watching through them?
Uh, well, if you'd like a telescope, you can look through them, but most of the time there's just us fishing the sky, and we collect the fished sky star stuff, and we put it in our big jars, and we keep it and
Now,
partake sometimes. But there's no
I
one else besides us doing this.
obviously my own
And
attempts were rather amateurish, but I'm wondering if you would be willing to part with any of that star stuff.
uh, well, of course, anything you want from the sky, we can't really stop you from taking it with you if you want it. But the problem is, of course, transportation of the stuff. That requires our very specific kind of jar, as you see over there. And she points to that big jar that you noticed, the giant, like, glass jar that has its own night sky in it now, right? And there's probably another fisher fish putting more star stuff in there, right?
Is there a specific look to the glass? Like, is it made of a specific kind of mineral?
So you can't really tell that without some kind of examination, I'd say. Like to you, it just looks like glass. It's very clear glass. It's obviously very high quality because there's no like impurities, and it's not
I don't suppose you have a smaller jar.
a smaller jar. No, it's impossible to keep the majesty of the cosmos in anything smaller than those large glass jars we have. Furthermore, to partake of the star stuff, one must immerse themselves fully, bodily, within the star stuff, and therefore a smaller jar would only be suitable to a smaller person.
Ah, that is that does rather change the usefulness of the potential medicine. Um, though I am curious
Yes.
as to the effects of immersing oneself in star stuff.
I suppose a jar the size of one's head could potentially work. However, that would be very uncomfortable. And we don't have any of those jars either.
So, when you say appreciating or perceiving the vastness of your smallness, what more specifically does that feel like?
Well, it feels like you know exactly who you are and where you belong in the universe itself.
Said the magic word, knowledge.
Uh, eh, could I try it? Maybe.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think a first-hand experience is the only way I can possibly come away from this with the appropriate amount of information.
Yes. The I would perhaps allow it if you fully understand the ramifications of partaking. I don't want you to mm, get too used to taking part of the star stuff if you don't have your own way of acquiring more. It might become somewhat problematic for you if you partake and can no longer partake again from the star stuff.
That sounds like a pretty big red flag there, Laura. Might want to hold back on that. I know you're interested in finding out new things, but
Not everyone immediately becomes fully addicted to the vastness of their smallness, but it is a potential risk, and I wouldn't want you to risk it without understanding that risk first.
Hmm. Yes, well, it wouldn't do to put myself out quite yet. Um, if it were to happen, it's a little early in my studies to be taking those kinds of risks. But it's very enticing. My place in the universe.
things that
Mm,
are
then
addictive are made to be enticing. That doesn't mean they're good.
I think she looks like she's gonna say like do it, and then with Etienne's advice, she hesitates a little bit and is like,
Urtica is very pro you doing this.
"Oh, okay, all right. Well, it's 50-50, so I guess
you can make like a resolve test if you like
no,
want to
on
decide.
her own, Elora would do it 100%. Like, there's just like no reason for her not to do it. So,
Yeah, you did drink spider venom.
yeah,
because-
that's what I'm saying. Like, she drank spider venom to read books. You know, like this is another one of those situations. So she turns back to the fish lady and says, "No, I think I am cognizant of the risks."
Interesting. So, before you partake, perhaps we can finish our business here and Then I will take you to my own personal collection. What say you?
Of course. Yes, I can wait.
If you'd like, we can keep trying to teach you to fish your own star stuff.
I suppose it might be prudent.
So time passes if you're waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any? Unless you want to like run away or change.
Is there a way to take 20 on this? Like, just keep trying until it works?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. If basically, I'm gonna give you each another roll if you'd like to try to fish
Yeah.
again. But otherwise, basically, this is like a little montage of you sitting around fishing with these fish.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, that's a critical success if you're listening. Uh, so you, well, why don't I get everyone else's roll,
Okay.
and then we'll sort of narrate what happens. Etienne, I assume you're not.
No, Etienne is not partaking.
Elora's too nervous about the
so-
upcoming star dunk.
So I think Erdica, you hone in on that connection that you were feeling. You had that fleeting sort of feeling of like this is the night sky is something
There's
that
something
I'm
I'm missing.
familiar with. And as you're fishing, this connection grows stronger, and you sort of feel like you understand better the Shadow Garden, and you feel like you better understand sort of where you like it. This critical success, I'll say, doesn't just let you get some stuff, because the stuff you're getting you're not keeping anyway because it goes in the jar, right? This is sort of a extra narrative layer that you're getting from the critical success, is that you have a stronger connection to your past now than you that stuff you were forgetting, those feelings of fleeting knowledge and like remembering a dream kind of stuff, that's been lessened. Now you've got a stronger notion that the Shadow Garden had something to do with nighttime. It had something to do with the night sky, and there's some link there, like a cosmic aspect to the Shadow Garden and to the reason that you came here, maybe even.
How can I acquire one of these star rods?
Well, most of us are great aficionados of star stuff fishing. We make our own from various schematics and plans that have been devised over time. Uh, if a beginner like yourself wanted to acquire one, I would suggest perhaps merely purchasing one.
How much do they cost?
Well, that
Because
depends
I'm also
entirely.
thinking forward, if Alora becomes addicted to star stuff,
Yeah.
being the star stuff supplier is a good place to be.
Well, that depends upon your budget as well as the scope of which you want to spend, which is also your budget. Um, she doesn't say that, but she basically is going into like, oh, it depends how much it costs. Based on
Look, you
how
can get
fancy a
you
rod
can
you
get the
want. Yeah,
deluxe Nebula Fisher 3000, or you can get
yeah,
like a
exactly.
stick with a string on it, right?
That's like the idea that she's giving you, like, and she's very impressed. You got a big catch, right? Like, so she's like, oh, you've got the knack for this. Maybe you would like to buy a lesson plan as well as she goes through like the kind of like uh, first time fisher.
I have
Like,
19 brass
speech.
pennies on me.
So
Yeah, but
yeah, she never
Elora
mentions like
has
exact
Elora
prices.
has far more. Elora has 2 gold crowns, which are 240 brass pennies each.
Yeah. Well, no, they're 100.
So Urtica will be probing.
Oh,
for,
100 each. Yeah.
Because I'm
what are
lazy
we-
and I don't want to bother with that. So.
Like, is this like 100 gold crowns, or is this like a penny?
So she never gives you a clear answer. She's talking about like theoretic like price ranges for various approaches to learning to fish star stuff, right? She's like, oh, if you only want the basic thing, it's the cheapest option, but it's not a very solid rod, it might fall apart, you know. Oh, you really want to spend, you know, if you're making an investment kind of thing. Like, she's not giving you a clear answer here. She's saying sort of strategies as to what kind of purchasing plans you might have, and like, oh, then you can upgrade from this to that, and like stuff like that. She's gushing it
From
kind of.
from whom can I purchase one of these rods?
Well, from another star fisher, I
Such as
suppose.
yourself?
Oh, yes, I could sell you one of my old ones, I suppose.
How
We are
much?
going to your collection, so there's plenty of time to collect
Yes,
equipment.
yes. Let's go look at my collection, and we can discuss the costs and exchange rates of sharing the wonders of fishing the skies. And so she,
A-
but
As we're walking to her place, I look to Urtica and say, "Now you know how I was feeling talking to Levist."
so by now, all the other fishers have sort of packed up their tackle boxes. You know, the equivalent of a tackle box. They've all got their little tackle boxes on their side and their rods over their shoulders, and they're all talking about, "Oh yeah, good haul, this, you know, stuff." Uh, the giant jar doesn't seem to be being moved. It's left where it is, and so one of them puts like a big stopper on top of it, and then climbs down a ladder and heads off with the others. And I guess I'll give this fish person a name. She is Sam Sudu, the fisher fish lady. I can post that somewhere. Sam Sudu.
Samsudu. I have
And so she, you know, you probably have exchanged this information over the course of your little fishy fishing. And so she heads off in a different direction than the others, who are headed somewhere. You assume social, basically.
yeah,
They're
sweet fishing
similar to-
lodge.
yeah, and she takes you to her abode, which is one of the buildings. It's like a large domed building with like hexagonal shape, but there's a dome on top, and it's got very simple windows. They're like kind of almost like large arrow slits. And she opens the front door, and it's like a open space. There's no furniture. There's just a large ring of these giant jars, right, of fishing star stuff arrayed around the inside of this large hexagonal building, right? And there's obviously an upstairs somewhere off, up like a set of stairs somewhere, and that's basically it. It's like it looks like a place where someone who just all they do is fish all the time lives, right? And like there's just a bunch of like the equivalent of fishing trophies just on the walls, like against the walls, these giant jars, right?
Stacks of Fisher's
Yeah.
Monthly.
Yeah, and that's basically it. And there's no sign of like a bed or like any kind of, you know, cooking utensils or like any kind of sense that anyone has lived in here. And she you know, welcomes you. Know, well, come in, come in. Which would you like to do first? Attempt the entry into the star stuff, or discuss the extent of your desired purchase?
Let us dunk Alora in the star stuff first.
Urtica.
Dunking is the correct verb.
Laura's just like sweet. Yeah, like
Please, follow me now. There are many options for star stuff partaking. And again, I warn you, there is a risk to overindulging, and that is no small drawback. Are you certain you wish to partake?
Well, we'll try and mitigate the drawback as much as possible, being careful.
So I'll start you off with a beautiful galaxy bouquet. And she goes to a side storage area that appears to be under the stairs, right? Like there's just a little bit of sort of like a open closet almost. Like that's where she keeps her rods and like this ladder, not little, it's a ladder that obviously hooks onto the
The
outside
jars.
of these jars, right? So she goes and grabs her ladder and she says, "Well, just like I said, a lighter variety to begin with. Perhaps that way you won't suffer too much should you mm, become over overly perceptive of the universe." And she hooks it onto one of these jars and says, "Well, climb up and I'll
Elora,
instruct you as to the correct state of mind to enter into the star trance."
Elora hands her spider silk cloak off to Etienne before she climbs the ladder, just in case it gets lost in there and she doesn't want to lose it. And like her
he
book
takes
bag.
it from her.
Yeah, she like takes her like shoulder bag off.
Yeah, he takes it from her and says, "Just be careful. They've warned you several times, and I know you think it's worth it to know, but there are some things we shouldn't know."
She makes a noise, like a tisking noise.
Yeah.
And says like, it's always worth it to know, Etienne. And then goes to climb the ladder.
Yeah, Etienne just watches her go up the ladder, just shaking his head slowly.
So there's still a lid on the top, and the fisher fish lady
Sam
says, "Well,
Sudu.
just Sam Sudu, yes. I should stop saying fisher fish lady. 'Cause it's silly. I can't help saying fisher fish lady." So Sam Sudu says to you, "Well, just take the top off first of the lid."
Tries to unstop her the jar.
And I think you can manage this with your hands, right? The one good hand and the spider
And
hand.
the
Like there's
spider
not a
claw.
particularly dexterous required, right? Like you
Mhm.
can manage it. So you take the lid off, and the lid feels like light, very light, even though it looks enormous, right? It's sort of this almost weightless kind of feeling to the wood of it. It's a wooden lid. You
Kind of
take
like
it off.
cork.
So hand it to me, why don't you? And she takes it from you.
Yep, hands
Now,
down.
the first thing you must do is prepare yourself to have an experience beyond anything you have ever experienced before.
Well, I've experienced quite a
Well,
few
that
things.
should be easy.
Imagine that you've never felt what you're about to feel and breathe.
She does a long inhale and exhale.
So I want you to make some rolls for this, right?
Okay.
So first roll, let's see, what would it be?
I'm ready. I'm putting my whole shit on the line right away.
Let's roll incantation.
Incantation?
Oh God,
Incantation. That's
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 not
a
good.
special skill. That
I
means
don't
you
have
can't.
the advanced
Yeah,
skill
you don't have it.
incantation.
So if you flip the fail here.
Okay. Well, situational modifier of 0, I assume.
Yeah, it's a 0.
I fail
So,
anyway, so it's fine.
So your breathing and your mindfulness of the situation, of the ritual almost, is lacking, we'll say. And so, but Sam Sudu is guiding you through this, and she says, "Oh, once you've breathed in your last breath, step into the star stuff. Uh, Whichever direction you choose, it doesn't matter. Some of us prefer to dive in head first. Some of us will gingerly place our toes in it first and then Slide in.
Elora's gonna take the toe first method, I think, for being able to get back out of this jar.
Okay, so you dip your toe in first, and it feels like nothing you've ever felt before. It feels like nothing, exactly like nothing. You don't feel anything as your foot pierces the barrier of this sky
There's some
like substance. It seems like it should be liquid. They keep it in jars, but it's also just like a non thing, right?
Non-Newtonian fluid.
there's definitely some weird parallels here of her like sticking her hand into the darkness of the library, you know, like just like choosing to do dangerous stuff and hoping it works out. And she just lets herself like further into the jar.
So you slide all the way,
Yeah.
like you just drop in.
Yeah, I think so.
So as you drop, it feels like you're dropping, like you're falling into the sky, right? As if this is a part of the night sky almost, right? And all perception of the outside world through the jar is vanished. You are in the sky now, in this nebulous, incredibly vast, empty night.
Nice.
Right? There's nothing around you. You're all alone. You don't see where you came from. There's no more lid. There's no more jar. There's only the night sky and the stars around you. You are completely alone and you are experiencing nothing. Essentially, you're just existing because there's no more breathing. There's no more, your body stops sort of functioning as a body almost. You are no longer a person. You are no longer thinking. You are perceiving only. You are the perception of the universe as opposed to a person within the universe. And I think I'd like you to roll a resolve test, please.
Hey, I got the resolve skill on my level up. All right, let's see. Here we go.
So no modifier
No
because
modifier.
this is a secret test. So the modifier exists.
85.
Okay. Well, that's you don't know the modifier.
That's true, I don't.
You have resolve 10, so 56. And you're stuck in the jar, I suppose, in that space. And on the outside, what other people are seeing is just Elora floating in this jar of star stuff, and her features are indifferent, or as if she was sleeping, I suppose, is how I would describe it, right? But she's not breathing. I think you noticed that, right? She's not moving at all. She's sort of just floating there, as if suspended in this substance, which isn't a substance. It's like the night sky. So she's stuck in the night sky currently in this jar.
When you say she's not breathing, do you mean she's holding her breath, or do you mean that like her chest has just stopped moving?
She entirely has stopped moving, so she's not breathing in the sense that she seems frozen almost in space, in the sky, right?
Okay.
And Sam Sudu. Why do I come up with these stupid names? This is a random generated name, by the way. But Sam Sudu doesn't seem alarmed or anything. She's sort of looking intently at Laura and just sort of holding the lid. No reaction whatsoever on her giant fish face, right?
I think Etienne asks her, how long do you normally stay in the star stuff?
Time has no meaning in the star stuff.
Yes, but we're outside the star stuff, so how long?
Oh, well, I've never actually seen someone go into the star stuff. I've only ever experienced it myself, you see.
You've never done it with your friends from the fishing group?
No. In fact, I told a bit of a fib. I've never actually been inside of it either. I didn't partake myself.
Etienne's like eyes go wide, and he starts climbing the ladder to pull Elora out.
Now, I don't know if you should do that.
You say you don't know a lot of things.
Well, knowledge is the limit of what we know, is it not?
Etienne just kind of like sighs and kind of like reaches into the thing and tries to pull Elora
Okay,
out.
so I need you to roll a toughness test.
Okay, I have that trained. I have a rank in that.
0 modifier.
Shouldn't just trust fish
Standard
people.
roll.
Okay.
Oh!
Okay, so there's no adverse effect, I think, to reaching your hand directly into the cosmos, right? Like,
Nah, you're good.
and because you're trying to grab her, she's deep enough in that you would have to you have to fully go into the stuff, right? You're not just fishing with your
Yeah, I
arm.
have to lean in.
You have to lean in, so your head goes through there.
I
and-
do like take a breath and hold it before I dunk my head in.
So I think you basically get a hold of Elora, and Elora, I'd like you to roll a toughness test as well.
Okay. This is gonna be not great. Oh my god, I rolled 100.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
Jesus.
So, from your point of view, Elora, you know what? Why don't we cut the session?
Oh, you want to cut the episode here? Really? Okay.
And I will tell you what happens next time.
Wow.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good, I think, critical failure. It's amazing that we rolled a critical success over 1, because that's a rare critical success. Like, critical successes are usually a match, but you can also critically succeed on a 1.
I was really hoping I wouldn't critically fail anything to
Oh,
do with this.
Jesus.
But that's amazing, a 100. So we've run the gamut of the options, and that's
Time
great.
to
That's
lose the second hand.
That's the perfect place to roll a critical failure on. And also, I think we'll stop there because it's like it's coming up on time, and I can't really picture a better place to stop.
No,
the
you're
episode
no,
than-
I think
Yeah,
you're
that's
totally
right.
right. And it gives you time to think of my consequence if you haven't
Well-
already decided what it is.
Yeah, I've got options now because like I wasn't expecting a critical failure, to be honest. I never do, but I should. But yeah, that's gonna be fun. And I think we'll find out how fun in the dwarf.
Oh, I
Fortress
have-
sense
So
of the
Elf,
word.
who's your second character?
Would you like to spend a fate point? Oh God, that's actually a great place to talk about fortune points, which I completely forgot to mention, even though I wrote myself a note at the start of the episode.
Mm.
So we can go over some mechanics, since it's not quite the
Yeah,
end of
yeah.
time, and there's room to do it. But we'll cut the narrative and the role play. So fortune points let you re-roll things, but not if they're critical failures, I'm afraid. So generally, and I'll get the rules for this, so we can take the time to talk about this, right? So let's go over to how to play.
I'm just interested in how fucked I am. You know what I mean? Like, am I
Yeah.
dead? I hope not.
We'll find out. We'll find out
Well,
next time.
I'm hoping to leverage the fact that I succeeded at my turn.
That's
so
true,
I'll
you
hopefully be able
did,
to get
yeah.
Elora out, even if there is some sort of consequence to.
Oh yes, absolutely. The consequences will
Yeah.
be for Alora here, I think.
Yeah.
Etienne, you succeeded, so that I can't like hurt you.
Oh no, I was just meaning that maybe the toughness will like allow me to pull Elora out, even if it's pulling her out in a very bad state.
Yes, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Don't worry about. Don't worry.
I